Good evening, Super League fans. I hope you haven't missed us too much. It's good to be back, and I hope you can all hear us out there. I think it's been a while, of course, with the audio settings and with playing around with all this kind of stuff here in the studio. But you should have a signal now, and you should be able to see the screen and hear us. If there's any problems, just give us a shout in the comments. With me in studio tonight, Ian Edwards. Good evening, Ian.
Good evening. How are you? Happy New Year, everyone.
Yes, happy New Year to you too, and to happy New Year to everyone watching. If they can hear us, I'm going by the fact that they can hear us, but they will. We'll see if anyone if anyone complains in the chat, then that's probably it. So it's been a while, Ian. How's it been for you? Good New Year, good Christmas, all sorted.
Yeah, really good. Just time off work more than anything is great. Just let the kids open a few presents and watch a bit of rubbish telly and just feed your face as much as you can and just wait for the Super League to come back round. It feels like it's been absolutely ages. So raring to go, mate.
Definitely has been. I thought for a second, I thought you would say you're gonna let the kids crack open a few cans, but well, maybe the oldest. I don't know. Either
Yeah,
way, I'm sure that you enjoyed the holidays. I did the same. It was nice to have the time off, of course. But by the end of it, I could feel that the old chairman niggles were coming back. I couldn't really. I found myself staring at the game, just looking at things and thinking, oh, maybe we should have a sneaky preview, but we didn't. We managed to chill out, and we managed to get through the holiday season, and we're back with a bang with a lot of interesting games coming up. I think in the interest of fairness to everyone who I mean, we're not young anymore, apart from perhaps the Swindon manager. So just to refresh our memory, maybe just go over the results from last time out. If we do that first, then we can have a look at the league table, see how
yeah.
things are, and then crack on.
Let's try and rack our brains. See if we can
Yeah.
remember.
Absolutely. So first up in last round's fixtures, we obviously had your good self against Arsenal Celtic. Pretty dominant performance from you. How did you see that one? Do you remember?
Yeah, I do actually. Yeah, because it's the wins are few and far between, so you do kind of remember them. There's not been that many recently, so it was kind of a bit of a battle of two underachieving sides, really. And I think if I'd have lost that one at home, that would have been season over. As it is, a victory gives me a little bit of a glimmer of hope of climbing the table. And we didn't just do it by smash and grab. We did it by pretty much controlling the whole match. So. Yeah, pretty happy with it, really.
Yeah, I think definitely in terms of chances created, you definitely had the most of it. Fairly even sort of the distribution of where the ball was played, but you certainly made the most of the possession and created the most chances. And you'll have been happy with Buffon getting a solid 8 in his first game for the club.
Yeah, it's always a bit dodgy, isn't it, when you bring someone in new at the back, especially when you're pretty ropey at the back anyway. And some people sort of, I know Buffon is a good keeper, but some people think he hasn't been great this season. And some people think we maybe haven't got the best Buffon this year. But hopefully, yeah, I think he'll be okay for me. Another, same again tonight with Ferdinand coming in. You just don't know how the new guys are going to disrupt things or settle in. So yeah, nice to make a debut in goal and get a win, really.
Yeah, and decent performance from him. And as was mentioned, probably he'd conceded 23 and 10 for the Sloss, and only a 7 average, very very poor passing average as well. So his distribution hadn't been great, but certainly off to a better start for you. So you got to be happy with that, despite the perhaps slightly inflated. Would you say it's inflated price tag of 20 million? I mean, you've been spending quite big over the winter.
Yeah, I mean, it's there to be spent, isn't it? And if I had a pretty decent window first time out when it was all trades, because I mean, the squad that I've ended up with now, it took me a lot of work to get there.
Hmm.
That was all wheeling and dealing on trades. So when the money kicked in to be spent, I think I think I needed to spend it. I think Ferdinand's obviously costing me a fair bit as well, but
Hmm.
my third guy when he comes in isn't too expensive. So there's a bit of money left there to avoid us going completely bust over the next couple of seasons.
Yeah, well, we'll see when season ticket sales and all that kick in, obviously. But we also do have a quite a long off season with salaries to be paid, so it should, according to chairman's calculations, even itself out pretty much. But obviously over time that can change depending on sign-on fees, etc. So a good result for you guys. If we look at the next one, Dragon Destroyers against Churchtown. Churchtown with a narrow 1-0 victory in quite an eventful game. Brosek made his debut for Dragons, didn't get the goal. Van Nistelrooy grabbed the headlines with the single goal of the game, with the only goal of the game, and eventually the winner. How did you see that one? And do you think that there is? I mean, are Dragons in a bit of the same situation as yourself, or how do you see them?
Well, I think Dragons must have been fearing the worst going into that game, because I think there was two away victories before that for Churchtown anyway, so they were showing some impressive away form. Um, yeah, I think Dragons probably are a bit similar to us, although maybe, I guess by my own admittance, I've got a better team and a better squad than them, so I don't think they're underperforming as much as we're underperforming. I think when you look at his average ratings in that game as well, and he's relied on Robbie Keane a lot through the season, and Robbie Keane was actually the worst, ratings-wise, was the worst player in the team. So I guess when that happens, you're probably not going to score, you're probably not going to win the game. So it kind of panned out, looking at that, how you would have expected it to, really.
Yeah, and Kieran, on the other hand, perhaps not the best performance from his side, but in the end they got the win, and that's what counts, isn't it?
Yeah, got the job done. He's getting goals from Van Nistelrooy, which people haven't always said is an easy thing to do in the Super League. Barry Ferguson coming back was obviously a big thing, having him back for a couple of games, and he bosses that midfield, doesn't he? Especially with the formation he plays, he needs a top guy in that
Hmm.
MC role. So yeah, yeah, I think all looking very good for Churchtown, and obviously 3 away wins, and they're at home tonight, aren't they, as well? So you expect them to kick on, really.
Yeah, good night out for them, definitely. Then we had the Battle of the Super Narrows down in Brazil. It was a stalemate after a bit of a wasteful performance from both sides. Astor Athletic now somehow still seventh despite going 9 games without a win. What's the story down at Astor Athletic, and how they've been going about things recently?
It's a tough one to put your finger on, isn't it? I mean, Alf will tell you a lot of it is on Lee Boyer not being available to him. But I mean, that's been quite a long time now that Lee Boyer hasn't been available. You would have hoped that a man of Al's caliber and someone who puts the hours in and the homework in, that he would have found a solution to that problem. I couldn't believe it when you pointed out to me that was that was such a run. I mean, luckily for Alf, he hasn't lost all those games. There's been a fair few draws in there. I mean, obviously a couple of defeats. I think even one to us, which is maybe when the alarm bells need to
Hmm.
start a little bit. But yeah, I trust him to get back on track at some point. Whether it'll be tonight or not, I don't know. I think it probably will be. But his team didn't play badly in that game. It was a tough fixture away to Hools. So some of the points that he has picked up, despite not winning, have actually been decent points.
And he obviously had a fair balance to sort of like fall back on of points gained in the first sort of 5 to 7 games when he got I don't know, was it 5 or 6 wins on a trot or something like that anyway. But he definitely had good results and plenty of points in the bag to fall back on. With regards to hooligans, uh, they're having a good season, aren't they?
Yeah, I think that they were having a better season, weren't they? I think
Hmm.
down to what is it, sixth now in the league. I think after the start they had, I think people might have been expecting them to maybe still be top two, three, something like that. But
Hmm.
again, another injury hit team, really. So I mean, I guess he wouldn't be playing Kennedy in midfield if he didn't have to.
Hmm.
I think he's always going to have a bit of an issue up front, whether he decides to play Anelka, doesn't decide to play Anelka. He's got choices to be made there.
Hmm.
Um, I think you might see them steady the ship a little bit more as he gets everybody back.
Yeah, I think he was without like four or five first team players at some point. I think Beckham has been out. There's been a few people out. I think he's still without Mendieta for a while. Sol Campbell
Yeah,
obviously out for the season pretty much. So yeah, so it's been a tough one for him. I think probably a fair result in that game and a 1-1, which doesn't really do any of them a huge amount of harm. Doesn't do them a huge amount of good either. But at least it keeps the ship steady until the next win, the next game, and perhaps easier ones.
absolutely.
Um, then we had the fall of the home record. Midlothian, if I remember rightly, were unbeaten going into this at home. That's no longer the case, thanks to a couple of goals from Danish superstar Ebbe Sand and Roman Vasiliuk. So this was yeah, this was Palmer at their very best.
Yeah, I think is it quite fitting, I guess, that Palmer and Nikos were the team to take that record off Midlothian, because I think if I'm not mistaken, that leaves Palmer and Nikos as the only 100% home team left amongst us. I may be wrong about that, but I think that's the case. You never know really what you're going to get when Panathinaikos turn up, do you?
Hmm.
His formations are always a little bit eyebrow raising, no more so than tonight when we see it. He's gone a little bit Man City and playing without a striker, isn't he? So
Hmm. The old false nine,
you know,
or Scotland away to the Czech Republic, as some people call it,
yeah,
which was less effective than perhaps the false nine have been on many occasions. So Midlothian just didn't have the answer to it. They've been quite poor. Away from home, but we've not seen them this poor at home. And still, with Kesman getting two goals, Karsten Ramelov, the kind of surprise of the season for me anyway, or one of them. But the rest of the team just weren't really up to it. He's relying heavily on a couple of new signings. Do you think that that front three there that he played with Kuhl, Kesman, and Kellstrom, do you think that's part of the problem that his front three is kind of a bit lightweight?
well, yeah, I like Kewell. I think Kellstrom is perhaps at this stage. It's a nice kind of romantic champ player to have in there, but is he really good enough at this stage for Super League? The
Mm,
five would suggest perhaps not. There's a couple of guys in there that let him down last match. Really, Shea Given. I guess he's not really used to Shea Given letting him down. Um, it's a tough one because I think if he has Mpenza playing week in week out, he's an absolute force to be reckoned with. But as soon as Emil Mpenza is not available to him, the side looks completely different.
hmm.
So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how back plays tonight. I know he's really excited to get back on up
Yeah,
and running.
he has mentioned him a few times. He also made a couple of references to him. I think on his Twitter account, he might have contacted the chairman a couple of times or nine over over the holiday season. So, but no, I can understand that if you know what it's like if you find someone. It's like the old Sigalco work permit thing. Will he, won't he? When people talk about signing him up at the start of a game or something like that, you put a bid in for a player, and you see his stats, and you're thinking that's just what I need, and of course you're going to get excited about it. So yeah, fair play to him, and we'll speak more about that particular issue or particular player later on. Um, Somerset Sloths were at home to Bolton. This was a very entertaining, eventful game. There was a late goal in that one. I think if we bring up the overview, we can see how things unfolded in that one. Slow progress for Sloths, but they are getting better. I think that's what 4 or 5 without losing, something like that. Um,
Yeah,
and,
five unbeaten, which you pointed that out to me as well. That hadn't really sunk in at the time, but five unbeaten, it's impressive. And again, whether they're all, whether some of them are draws or whatever, it's when you look at the start that he had, five unbeaten at this point of the season, regardless of what those results were, is you have to count as progress. And yeah, maybe been a little bit unlucky not to take a few more points over the last few weeks as well.
hmm and what happened at the end of this game with those two sending offs there, Duff and Keel? It was a bit of a shame for Bolton. I think they probably thought that right, this is when we push on. This is when we really start putting the pressure on Valen. But then Keel gets sent off and Rivaldo gets a late goal there for them.
Yeah, well, Ryan's what were Ryan's instructions after when Kale was sent off?
Don't
Was it?
touch
I mean,
anything. Do not
it was
touch
thought to
anything
get.
under any circumstances.
I think that was probably perhaps a little bit of a mistake. If he'd have left that open for you to maybe balance things out, you might have just seen that one out.
Hmm. Yeah. Definitely Figo they're still relying on a little bit. I mean, he's also a bit of an enigma, isn't he? Is that the right word? It's not everyone that gets him to fire on all cylinders, but 8 goals in 14 for Bolton. That's pretty good.
It is, yeah, really impressive. Yeah, he's done well with him. I think I think he's had a lot of apart from Figo, he's had a lot of misfiring players, and I think you kind of get the impression with Ryan that one or two of these guys who have misfired, or whether it's Montella coming in, when one of them backs Figo up, I think he's going to be all right and probably only get stronger this season. Perhaps I think the questions for Bolton maybe are more at the back. You know, how will Wes Brown bed in? Is a partnership of Brown and Neville good enough? I think up front, I think it'll click, and I think he'll be fine for goals.
Hmm. Yeah, well, he's certainly come on leaps and bounds since a poor start to the season. So well played so far to Ryan and the boys there. Um, Swindon Devils took on Hoddesdon Hornets, as we can see there. Constanzo getting back to his old tricks of getting Man of the Match awards. Um, they were down to 10 men after I think 20 minutes or something like that. 27 minutes, Deisler got sent off, and they somehow managed to hold on. I mean, Tigalco scores, Deisler gets sent off. You're thinking there's going to be 3-4-5 for Hornets, isn't it?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, I think it looked like he was kind of asking for a bit. I think if I remember rightly, Deisler played DMC, didn't he, in that game, and maybe not suited to that position. He was perhaps caught out. And yeah, you do fear the worst, but I think there has been improvement shown from Swindon over the past few weeks, and I think they do have a little bit more stickability about them. It's probably just a shame that they didn't have this little bit more of a spine at the start of the season, and they maybe wouldn't be in the mess they are.
Mm. Yeah, well, we'll see how they progress today, obviously, but I think, I mean, obviously, Uh, it's a draw is a draw. It's but when you're at the bottom of the table, it's really 3 points that you're after, and you could be doing without the red cards. We'll probably get back to that topic later on tonight. I've had a bit of a sneak peek of tonight's refereeing lineup, so that'll be interesting. If anyone who's following us on Twitter, then you can have a look there. You can see the list of all the referees and the various strictnesses. Well, certainly for the top 10 strictest, and we'll get to those. We'll get to show off some of those refs when we see the fixtures for tonight. Um, the last game was the Swedish. Uh, I don't know the Swedish something very very powerful and unstoppable. That
Well, Swedish Barcelona, if half and halves have got anything to do with it, isn't it? So
Yeah. So a very convincing win for them as they continue to brush aside their opposition more or less. Anyway, it certainly looked that way in some of the games. Perhaps not dominant, but it's as if the result is never really in doubt, and that was probably the case with this game as well. I mean, it started out fairly fairly evenly, but with Chudley coming into it after the two early goals from
mm.
Saviola and Nakata. But at the end, it was very convincing from Valen, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. I think we all know Chudley's problem, don't we? And it's conceding goals. Tim has mentioned it plenty of times himself, and he's not sure why it's happening. But if you look at those last, I think 4 games, I think they've conceded slightly more than 4 goals a game on average.
Hmm.
Which, yeah, I guess is as much of a surprise to him as it is to all the rest of us. Um, Valen are obviously on the crest of a wave, aren't they? They seem to be able to tinker with the formation and still play well. So he's doing a really good job. Yeah,
Yeah, I think I mean there's definitely there's something to be said for doing your research and your homework, as you pointed out earlier with Alf. He definitely puts the hours in, players wise. I think Andreas puts it in not so much players wise, but definitely tactics wise. I don't know how many standard tactics I have from him, but there's quite a few, and he sort of seamlessly switches between them without anyone really sort of taking much notice and saying, oh, now he's doing this, now he's doing that. So he's small tweaks here and there that definitely suits the players that he's putting out there. rather than changing the personnel, I think he's adapting the with the tactics to the personnel he's got at his disposal. I think we'll see Chudley going back to their tried and tested Tim's tried and tested formation, and obviously they've got Estebaria in now, and yeah, maybe they'll kick on tonight and get their season back on track. But as you mentioned, it has been four pretty terrible games for them of late. So if we have a look at the table, let's start at the bottom. Swindon Devils on 6 points. What do you think Fifey will have been saying to his guys and been working on over the holidays, apart from singing Heather Small songs to them?
Well, I think there's only one thing that Swindon can concentrate on, isn't there? And that's catching the 13th place. Until you catch 13th, you can't really be thinking about anything else. Now, I think how you go about that. I mean, I think there is a starting 11 in that squad that can do that. I don't always think that Fife necessarily plays the right guys at times. I think there's definitely goals, and I think that's what you've perhaps got to focus on. I could see Swindon putting a run together where they win a lot of high scoring games. So
Hmm.
yeah, catch 13th or 12th in 11th, and then see if you can just keep picking them off one by one. It's going to be tough.
That's true. And talking about 13, 12 to 11, that's yourself, Dragons, and the Sloths on 16, 14, 13. Yourself in a little bit more of a fortuitous position than the two teams below you, but you have conceded quite a lot of goals, even more. I mean, if you look at Dragons, I mean, they're keeping it tight, but they're also not really creating much. Where your side's a little bit of the opposite. I mean, you're scoring reasonable amount of goals, but you are conceding just that little bit more than the teams in front of you. If you look at Arsenal, Midlothian,
Yeah.
even Chutley with their horrific last four games. I mean, and Asta, it seems maybe defensively. Is this what you're hoping that Buffon and Rio will address?
Yeah, I mean, it's very polite of you actually to say that I've just conceded a few more.
I
It's
nearly double compared to Midlothian,
it's
let's be
obviously
honest,
yeah,
and twice as many as Asta, if you want it that way.
it's pretty horrendous. I think, you know, obviously whether or not, I mean, Buffon and Fernand coming in is okay. I mean, are they? They're a bit better than Abiati and Lasisi, but I shouldn't have been conceding those goals even with Abiati and Lasisi in the team really.
Hmm.
So, the fault is firmly at my door, and I think there were signs of improvement last week, and hopefully, yeah, I can continue that and maybe average for the rest of the season more goals scored than conceded. That's the only thing I can hope for.
That would be a start, but that's not necessarily that's it's not everyone that that does that. So yeah, if you could do that, then that would definitely be a boost for you guys. And with how many games we've got left? With 12 games left, I mean now is there's obviously still a lot to play for. You're only like 6 points away from fifth place, so it's not all is definitely not lost. But it
Yeah,
won't. This kind of like time period where things can still change for the good won't last forever. So we'll
no,
see how it goes, and it'll definitely be I mean, you Dragons and Sloths can't afford too many poor results in the next, let's say, 2 to 3 games, because then it's going to be a bridge too far, isn't it?
of course it is. It's going to yeah. If I need to be winning two of the next three,
Hmm.
and if I don't, it's probably done for me. But I think we can do it. I think we played well against Hodds last time out as well. So
Hmm.
it's definitely doable. I've thrown enough points away. We probably should be within a sniff of seventh or sixth. Some of the points we have thrown away with last minute nightmares and things like that. But I
Yeah,
guess most sides have probably got those sob stories as well. So
that's
yeah.
true. Most teams have got kind of small sub story issues, apart from maybe the top two, three, four. But either way, then we've got a big pack of chasers, the main chasers, if we can call them that. Ardsley, Midlothian, Chudley, and Asta, all with their different challenges. Ardsley is a lack of consistency. Midlothian can't win away. Chudley had a very good start to the season and then have had a couple of one or two bad results, and then the last four have been. I mean, they won one of the last four, but they still conceded like 2 or 3 goals in that game. And Asta's form is obviously completely tanked. So very different issues that these four teams have been facing. Um, who do you see coming out of that the best, and which are the ones that you think you'll be overtaken sooner rather than later?
Well, I've got to be looking at the two sides straight ahead of me for a start. I think I look at Astor and Chudley, and I think two really good managers, and to be seventh and eighth and not be doing particularly well, they only need a few tweaks and start doing well, and then they're going to be hard to catch. I think fifth to 10th is so tight. I look at Ardsley, and I just think that they don't fill you with an awful lot of confidence of putting two or three decent performances together on the trot. Whereas I think Chudley could get there and do that. I think Astor could get there and do that. Um, so yeah, all the way up to fifth. It'd be interesting to see how. I mean, I'm up against two of Craig's new boys tonight. It'd be interesting to see how
Hmm.
his work in the transfer market uh, pays off. Whether they bed in straight away. I know he's gone outside the league for his players, and it's so hard to judge in that sort of area of the table, really.
Yeah, I mean everyone beats everyone pretty much every now and again anyway. The teams that are already in the playoffs, so sitting kind of in a not pretty, but they're in there. Hornets and Hooligans. Hooligans, as we touched on before, they were perhaps a little bit better early on in the season, but they're still in there. Hornets, perhaps not surprisingly, always going to be there and thereabouts with Craig and his experience.
Yeah.
One of the so if we skip them. Sorry, guys. It's not because you're boring. We've just got other things to talk about. If we have a quick chat about Bolton and Panathinaikos. Bolton up first. So Ryan's new to the league, but has been following it for a while. So he it looks like the boy knows what he's doing. And he's in with a shout now after turning around a very poor start to the season.
He does know what he's doing, doesn't he? Yeah, and he's got momentum. He's got form. I don't think he's blessed with the best squad in the world, so he's done what he's doing, with the tools that he's got. I think that makes it even more impressive. And as I said to you earlier, I think he has kind of struggled to get a regular scoring striker, although he's not really struggling for goals per se.
Hmm.
I think you know I feel a bit sorry for say Harry Henry, because if he's scored last time out and he's dropped tonight, I guess Montella probably has to score. I like Montella. I think he gets a bit of a bad rep in this league, and I think he's proved over previous seasons. I think in the Super League that he can do it. I think if he gets one of those firing, I think he's only going to sort of climb the table.
Hmm.
Um, that probably would be at Panathinaikos' expense. I think who I don't, I think they've done really well to be up to third. Whether they finish third or not is another concern. But um, they're looking good for top six, that's for sure.
Mm. If you're looking at Panathinaikos and the squad, if we were to handicap, if let's pretend it's golf, would Panathinaikos be top of the table? With the amount of points they have, with the squad that they have. If you look at the squads of Valen and Churchtown, would Panathinaikos in a handicap world be 5 points ahead of everyone?
I think probably top two, if you're looking at handicaps, top two, Panathinaikos and Hoddesdon Hornets would be your top two if you were giving them a few points head start.
Mm.
Yeah, I think obviously well played Valen for being top, but that squad is obviously tremendous. I think you could extend that even further and say I think Valen's squad is probably more than 4 points better than Churchtown squads, which shows you what a good job Kieran's doing as well.
Yeah, both of them only conceding 12 goals, but perhaps Kieran being massively helped by having the two best central defenders and the best goalkeeper in the well, in my personal opinion, anyway, in in um, in his triangle there
Yeah,
with Maldini, Thuram, and Oliver Kahn, certainly in season one, and David's the DMC in front of them. Um,
well, it's not just the quality of the players; it's the age of the players, isn't it? And I
mhm,
think probably where I fall down a little bit is my the spine of my team isn't probably sprinkled with enough 29, 30, 31 year olds, and I think probably Valen having Keane in there, Churchtown having those three at the back.
mhm.
I think it does help, and I think you probably do need a couple of elder statesmen sprinkled through the spine of your team to help.
Yeah, because it's not like if you go a couple of seasons in and you start buying players, you start finding young players with 20s all over the place. But at the start of the game, it's really actually only the well-established, known players that have those kind of like blocks of 20s that just make everyone go, "Oh my God, if he gets a regen, I'm definitely buying him." Yeah, there aren't really that many young players with the same kind of level of stats. So yeah, maybe that's something for people to consider when they go shopping next time that that youth is not always an option in if you want instant impact and instant results. So anything that stands out for you? Any huge surprises? Any teams that are really far away from where you thought they would be?
Us. But no, I think we've touched on the ones that are probably a little bit, maybe perhaps doing a little bit better than they should be. I suppose I look at Ardsley in 10th, and I think I look at their squad, and I think there are creatives in there. He obviously won the Vieira lottery.
Hmm.
He got Milevski off me, which probably
In hindsight, was a mistake.
would I have made that deal now when I was making deals left, right, and centre at the time, and it seemed like a good idea at the time. So I mean, I think if he had a couple of, I mean, I would say more reliable strikers, but Morientes has banged them in. I think Morientes can score a hat trick and then go 2 games without scoring. So
Hmm.
I think if he could maybe improve up front a little bit, then he should be probably a bit higher up than he is.
Yeah. Well, that kind of covers that off, really. So I hope that was a good recap for everyone listening or watching. So you can see so you could be reminded of what we've been up to before we went on that winter break. The fixtures tonight are as follows. I think we've shared them already, and we have obviously spoken a little bit about the teams already. So we'll cover that again as we go through the individual games. We can maybe just remind ourselves which players are doing well in the league. I mean, Lee Boyer, is it fair that he's still sitting at the top of the table, considering that he hasn't played for what? I don't know how many games. 6 games he's been out now. Apart from that, there's Sambrata, Cafu, Ebisand. Any BTEC players? You've got Martin Palermo in there.
Well, Palermo seems to have shined when he's been up front on his own, which hasn't always been, from design. I've had Pizarro either injured or suspended for most of it. Inzaghi's done actually quite well for me, but he seems to get more assists than goals. So I think when I put Palermo up front on his own, that's when he started to sort of play well. Yeah, I think Lee Boy is obviously there because he's still over 50. He played over 50% of the games, hasn't he? But I think apart from the ones that you would expect to be up there, Eb Sand is obviously one that stands out. I think Joe's done really well to get a tune out of him. But obviously he is a class player, as you showed in charge of Denmark in Alf's Euros over the
Hmm.
little break as well. He scored a fair few for
Yeah,
you.
yeah,
So
golden boot there. Yeah. I mean, he's banging them in the Bundesliga in every single game. We'll have a quick look at the goalkeepers. I'll see what Alf says to that. Alf says he was yeah. So I don't think it's weeks, Alf, but but let's have a look. Injuries and ban. No, 6 months. That will be 4.3 times 6, 24, 27-ish weeks or something like that. So yeah. Next season, mate. Sorry about that. Goalkeepers. Quick word on goalkeepers.
uh,
We had goalkeepers with over an 8 average last season. I'm sure. And we don't now. Is that because they're younger? I mean, or what's the story with the goalkeepers here?
Yeah, I'm really not sure. I guess there is a slight age thing. Maybe it's a tactical thing. I don't know. Have we got more attacking sides? Are we? Is it higher scoring? I'm really not sure because all the same top keepers are there really. But yeah, I honestly don't know.
Hmm. And your personal favorite, Christian Abbiati, was was quite near the bottom. So I guess you're hoping that Buffon will prove to be a better choice for you.
Yeah, let's hope so. He's cost me enough money, hasn't he? So he needs to pay me back.
Yeah, fair enough. Finally, let's have a quick look at the top scorers. There aren't any goalkeepers, obviously. We'll take all players instead. Rossini sits on top of the pile with 11. Sander Batistuta right behind him. Tagalco as well. You've got Martin Palermo in there with 7. You mentioned him.
Yeah, he's done okay for me. As I say, he's got most of them by being up there by himself, so he's not
Hmm.
got anyone else to sort of take the limelight away from him. Rossini is one of the few sort of over the last few weeks. Rossini's one of the few shining lights for Cannons to be able to look at, and I think that's one thing that is going right. Obviously, we've mentioned Eb Sand, and then third and fourth is where I start to get a little bit nervous tonight because I guess both those guys are going to be up against me tonight. So it'll be if I can keep an 18 goal partnership quiet tonight, I'll be doing well.
Hmm. Yeah, that'll be a good achievement. Something I'm always interested in, just because it's of of personal sort of interest. If you look at team stats and goals from direct free kicks, so you're one of the leaders there, I guess, with Danielson being your
Yeah,
free kick man. Did you pay? I think did I ask you or did I ask someone else if it's something that you pay attention to? Who takes your free kicks and corners?
yeah, I think you probably know from the information that I send you. I think Danielson's probably been on set piece duty all season. Yeah, it seems to have done the trick. I mean, he's not in the team for that, but
Hmm.
but once he is in the team, it's him that gets selected to do the job. Yeah,
Hmm. So will be interesting for me to see what people do with this because that doesn't seem to be a real pattern. It's just about whether you have the good players to actually do it. I don't think Kieran sets his set piece takers. I can't remember, but either way, there is no real rhyme or reason to it. Who sets what and who gets the good results for them. But obviously, it means that you have a good corner taker or people that are very good at heading the ball. If you get the 5 goals from your corner, so and there are teams that haven't even got goals from corners in 14 games. That seems a little bit sad, considering how excited people get at football games when the team gets a corner. Then, then perhaps that's a little bit misleading. But anyway, I think it's probably time that we crack on with tonight's fixtures. We've got obviously people waiting and anxious to see how their team is going to get on. So first up, we've got Arsenal Celtic. I will just oh I forgot. Either way, I can still change them if it's wrong. Oh, a couple of new numbers there for or a new number for Shiro. So first up, we've got Artsy Celtic. Yes, I did remember to swap them around. Um, he's gone with Morientes and Diego Tristan, hoping to rekindle their magic relationship from earlier in this year. Do you think they'll they'll get goals against the Dragons tonight?
I think Morientes should do. I think he mentioned, didn't he, when he announced his team, he was going. He expected Jamie to probably field the same formation, and I think it's the formation that both clubs seem to field most of the time. But he just thought his better quality and home advantage would see him through. I
Hmm.
mean, you look at that lineup and you think, until you get to the strikers, it's absolutely well, it's incredibly strong, isn't it? So really, I think that is the question: Will Morientes get a couple of goals and see him over the line tonight? I think probably yes.
Hmm. Do you think Okoronkwo?
I
I'm guessing. Do you think Okoronkwo was is an improvement? Is he? I mean, he's a bit more of a utility player. I think he can play more positions than Lauerson. But do you think it's an improvement that he's included him?
I don't think there's an awful lot in it this in season one. I think I'm probably the wrong person to ask because as soon as I get a player like Okoronkwo in my squad, he goes straight on the bench because it means I only have to put one defender on
Hmm.
the bench. So he's not a guy that would probably get too many starts for me anyway. I think Martin Lawerson's got obviously brilliant stats. I think alongside John Terry would have been absolutely fine.
Hmm.
Um, I think he went in the deal with Nicky Butt, didn't he? I wouldn't like to say who got the better end of that deal, to be honest.
Yeah, I think he was probably just a little bit disappointed with Lauson's performance so far. 667 average is not particularly good, and John Terry's just been that little bit better. And then with Okoronkwo, he's got the benefit that some people are looking for, that he's either footed, so maybe he can go in and play a little bit better on that left-sided position there as well. There's some people that think there's a connection there, whether you've got left or right-sided. If you do have a left-sided, you should play him on the left. So
Yeah,
I guess there could be something on there.
yeah, maybe. I mean, the thing is, he's got options, hasn't he? He's got Malevsky who could have played there, and he could have he could have brought Stankovic into the team
Hmm.
as well. So the one thing that Orji does have is options. So because he is obviously blessed with a top squad.
Yeah, definitely. And if you look at the Dragons, so they'll be looking to new faces, Shearer and Brosek, who'll be leading the line tonight. Viduka and Cisse and all of these guys are nowhere to be seen. Well, Viduka's on the bench, might come on, obviously. Dragons, they will hope to take. Well, both teams are hoping to close the gap and to get a little bit closer to those playoff places. Robbie Keane. uh, with Shearer coming in, will they be less reliant on Robbie Keane, or do you think it'll still be if Keane plays well, they win. If Keane gets a six, they lose.
Uh, I mean, I think Robbie Keane has done well for him. I think Shearer's an excellent buy. I mean, I brought Shearer into in the first window. I brought him to BTEC, and I got rid of him straight away on another deal. So I mean, I don't know how many clubs in 14 matches. I think this might be Shearer's third or fourth club in the Super League already.
Hmm.
So, and I think he is obviously a top player. He's at a great age. He'll probably get loads of goals. Baduka's ran out of chances, really, hasn't he? I think. I think Viduka had plenty of chance to try and show his worth to the manager and didn't.
Hmm.
The one that really surprises me, I know we all love Pavel Brozek. I think he's probably not quite ready season one for a competition of this sort of caliber. And I think if I'm not normally one to question other managers, but I think he went for and died, didn't he, to Sloth, and that's maybe one deal this window that I would raise an eyebrow at. He'll probably go and score tonight because he is a top player. But
Hmm.
yeah, I'd look at Shearer to hopefully maybe carry them goals rather than Brozek.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean it could be it well it's kind of make a break for them. So we'll kick this one off. How do you see this one going? Home win for Ardsley, or will Shearer and Robbie Keane find that connection and finally get Dragons firing? Because conceding has not really been a big problem for them. It's definitely been the other end.
Yeah, I think if Guardiola can continue to impress at DMC, with the guys who've gone out, then that'll do Dragons the world of good. But I kind of agree with the philosophy that Hodgie tweeted about this week, which was to maybe go like for like and just hope that there's slightly better quality of player and home advantage season
Hmm.
through. And I do think that's the way I see tonight's match here.
Hmm. Right, referee in charge is Rob Eady. If anyone is checking the supplied list that was put out on the Twitter account, you can see whether he's a strict guy or not. So, but also you can just watch the game and see what happens. So we'll see. As the chairman, I'll stay impartial and I'll kick it off and see who gets off to the best start. It looks as if the Dragons are off to a slightly better start anyway, creating a couple of good chances here. Ardsley back in it. Oh, and there's Morientes.
Yeah, I must admit, I fancied him for maybe one or two tonight.
Yeah. I mean, Robbie Keane is on fire today, so you need to be careful. Careful
Well,
with your predictions.
when I joined the league last season, Jamie very kindly lent me Robbie Keane because he couldn't get a tune out of him, and he was brilliant for me at bottom of the table BTEC last year. So
Yeah.
I guess I kind of showed him the way with Robbie Keane, really.
Oh, but it looks as if the striking partnership are definitely back on form tonight. Tristan with a goal there just before the halftime break. First of all, it was a cross from Vieira on the right. He's playing him in right-sided midfielder, Patrick Vieira tonight. That was perhaps a little bit surprising with Milevski on that defensive midfielder, but he's getting something out of him. So that seems to have worked out okay.
Yeah, he's got those options, hasn't he? I think there's a triangle of guys he could move around and play any of them in those positions, and probably still get some good results.
And for Dragons, Giggs passed to Keane, who then beat like three people or something like that. Not make Riquelme. And Okoronkwo couldn't stop him and hit it hard towards the goal. So a nice solo goal for Robbie Keane there.
Yeah,
Definitely. I mean, it's great that he's in good form for Dragons, but it's unfortunate that they're relying so heavily on him, isn't it?
it is.
Rustico gets a yellow for Carragher as well. And then just before the halftime, Diego Tristan, well, Morientes had the ball for him, and Tristan went past Rustico, who's not had the best of games so far, and scored a goal. So Carini not really been up to scratch, and defense a little bit unusual for Dragons here.
Yeah, maybe not looking as solid as they were. Carini having a bit of a stinker, isn't he? But 5 minutes to go. I think maybe looking for Captain Shearer to pull his weight. Hasn't really got into the game too much. I think they could still get something out of it, but I still think there's more goals for Ardley as well, so it'll be tough.
Yeah, I mean they're definitely still in it chances wise. I mean, sort of fairly even split, and just that extra goal for Ardsley. Looking at the performances, Joe Cole, who's been mm,
Yeah,
not
he's.
good.
I know that's one of his main gripes this season. He hasn't had an attacking midfielder shine yet, has he? And I think he's
No.
trying. He's obviously got Riquelme in there.
Riquelme's even worse.
He's even worse. Yeah, he keeps trying Colo Riquelme. Yeah, I don't know what he does there really. Whether he goes for a forward centre in the AMC role instead, seems to be working for Dragons.
Hmm.
Yeah, because the AMCs certainly aren't doing it
Because
in
he's
that
got,
role.
I mean, he's got plenty of attacking players as well, hasn't he? So he could go for that. But let's kick off the second half and see if Dragons can find a way back in. I mean, they've had chances, and they will obviously be hoping for a little bit more from Shearer and Brosek. But Ardsley are a tough nut to crack occasionally.
And especially tonight, that's
That's
Morientes the second goal.
Oh,
Yeah,
he's definitely got that partnership firing again. Looks as if, oh, and there's Brosek with pulling one back, and Tomasi pulling one back as well. It's really not an evening for goalkeepers or defenders, is it?
if he throws this away from 4-1, he'll be devastated.
Yeah. Oh,
Oh
and there's Morientes with his hat trick. Will we see a sixth? No.
no.
5-3. Very, very, very unusual for a Dragons game, and that they're letting in so many goals. Who was it you said that they'd sold in Diaya? I think it was, wasn't it, on that defensive
No,
midfield?
and Guardiola's obviously in that DMC role now, isn't he? So it'd be interesting to see how Guardiola's sort of performed protecting his defenders.
I mean, it looks like a goalkeeping shit show, to be completely honest, doesn't it? With 7 shots and 5 going in. So
Yeah, I think
uh,
Uruguay had a
uh,
stinker, hasn't he?
Guardiola going with another 8, 10 tackles, 6-1, 4 key. It's definitely not on him. Shearer in the captain's role. Uh,
No
no,
shots, no shots from Shearer whatsoever. That's disappointing.
I mean, there's maybe something to be. I don't know if Robbie Keane is that selfish or what the story is, but it's a shame that you take out someone. I mean, I know Viduka has not been playing that well. I mean, early on in the season, Montella was awful as well in that role, and they just didn't have any chances. Why is it that they don't have the chances up front? I mean, you'd think that Shearer, I mean, with 17 heading and jumping, I mean, strength everywhere, he should be
Yeah.
able to get to those balls, shouldn't he?
I mean, I don't. Obviously, we're not privy to the tactics. Well, you are, but you're not going to say anything. But I'm wondering whether maybe he's got Keane. Has he got Keane dribbling everywhere and shooting on sight, and maybe he doesn't get the chance to lay the ball off to the strikers. But
Mm,
I mean, Brozek's managed to get hold of the ball, have a shot, get a goal. So
yeah.
he's obviously feeding them a little bit. He's obviously doing very well with Giggs as well, getting a tune out of Giggs at
Yeah,
left wing.
Giggs definitely coming into his own on that wing back. I think that's him up to 6 assists and 14. So he's probably the assist leader in the league, along with maybe one of the fullbacks from somewhere, Cafu or Sambrota or something like that. But 6 assists, that's pretty good, isn't it? If we're looking at Ardsley, the assists are well spread out throughout the team, but man of the match has got to be Morientes. That's him up to 11, 10, 11 for the season. 11 goals in 8.
It's impressive, isn't it? I mean, generally speaking, as well, if Morientes scores, he doesn't just settle for one, does he? I think we've seen that. We've seen that several times this season now.
Hmm. Yeah, and I mean, yeah, he'll be happy with that. He'll be watching it in the morning, and he'll be happy with that. The manager, I think. A shame for Dragons this result. I guess if you're looking at how the shots on target, they were equal to Arsenal. They just didn't. They only took 3 of their chances. Normally if you play a game, you have 7 shots on target. You score 3 of them, you'd get away from home. You'd expect at least a draw, if not 3 points.
Yeah, I mean, you get those games sometimes, don't where the back of your net just feels like an absolute ball magnet, and you just know that every time the opposition comes towards you, you're conceding. And it was just one of those nights for them.
Yeah.
Like the keeper had an absolute stinker.
Yeah, unfortunate for Dragons, and well done to Arsley for picking up the 3 points. And obviously this is going to help them tremendously in the race for the golden boot for whoever gets it. Morientes equal at the top of the table with Rossini now, of course, haven't had that opportunity to play one game more. But very good. We're not going to go to BTEC next. We are going to go to Aster. I think we've got up next. Aster home against the Sloths. There's a couple of new guys there that we will have to include. Um, so Aster Athletic, what do you make of them? We'd already spoken about the 9 games unbeaten. Will they go 10? Sorry, rather, what's the opposite of unbeaten? Is it just without a win, or is there an actual nice word for it?
Well, we'll go winless, won't we? We'll say winless. I
It's a
think
winless it's a winless run of 9 games.
Which like I say, when you mentioned it, I couldn't believe it, but I will take your word for it. It's a strange one, isn't it? But he's got some top players in there. He's got Mild in, hasn't he? And I know he likes Mild. He's had a tune out of Mild in a previous life, and I think if you look there and say how strong that is, Nesta, Zanetti, Emerson, them three in there, it should allow a platform for the front four to go and cause some damage, really.
Hmm. Andreas points out there in the comments as well. I have double checked this. It is definitely right. There's a bit of a strange setup for the Zanetti Emerson kind of Koku, the
I
placement
assume
of them.
is the placement of Zanetti probably is the one that's going to raise the eyebrows, isn't it? But as soon as you play Zanetti centrally anyway, does it matter whether it's on the left or on the right?
That's maybe a fair point. That as long as it's in, I mean, he's still in a relatively central role here, so it shouldn't have a huge effect. Then you can talk about being right or left-footed, whether that has an impact. But we'll see. But it's definitely according to the instructions. I have double checked it. It's not one of my it's not one of my slip-ups. Sonny Anderson, do you think he'll score tonight?
Oh, I think it's a case of whether the team plays well enough to allow him to. I think he's a good player. I think there's probably any of those four up top can get the goals tonight. I don't think he needs to rely on Sonny Anderson in particular. I think Hasselbank's shown, I think in the past for Panathinaikos last season that he can score goals
Hmm.
in this league. I know he gets slated quite a lot by various managers, but I'm a big fan of Brugging. I
Oh
think
dear.
Brugging can get you goals from the AMC role as well,
Hmm.
forward centre. So yeah, I don't think you need to rely on Sonny Anderson, but I think he's a decent. I mean, if you look at, he was playing the young lad Nikolai. I know Nikolai's, did okay for him, but I think I'd probably, rather have Sonny Anderson and Hasselbank up there than Nikolai.
Yeah, a bit more experience. Smith was there playing there and got a few goals early on, but has definitely fallen out of favor. And he's back to his old Alpha One formation, so the one he went with at the start of the season. Sloth seem to be sticking to this formation, which has seen them through 5 games unbeaten. Now we can
Yeah,
talk about unbeaten. Definitely 5 games unbeaten for Rob here. Um, it's still a little bit unusual, but I suppose he's getting closer to like line up without too many bizarre player placements.
it's a formation that's working for him, isn't it? I think for me, where the formation falls down is you've got to choose between Crespo and Vieri.
Mm,
Whereas if I was dealt that squad, probably I'd be looking at putting two up front and then choosing the next nine after I've made that decision. For me, Vieri and Crespo would be starting up front together, and then I'd be working backwards, trying to try to piece everyone else behind them.
hmm.
But who am I to criticise because he's doing really well. He's five unbeaten. Everyone's putting in a performance for him. I don't. Kaká's new to that team though, isn't he? I don't know whether is Kaká in for. Would it have been Jorgensen who would have been maybe floundering down
Yeah,
that?
he had a few different guys over on that on that right flank. He's had Dunn on the left. I think he's either injured or suspended now. He's got Solari playing there tonight. Van Bronckhorst seems to be the solution in the central midfield. Is that a surprise to you, Giovanni Van Bronckhorst doing a job at MC?
Uh, he's not a player that I particularly love so much. I had him in my squad for Alf's Euro
Hmm.
competition that we just played, and he didn't get a single minute in my lineup. But he seems to be doing okay there for Somerset. So
Hmm.
yeah, why not?
And got a decent left foot on him as well. I don't know if you're old enough, so you'll remember the goal he scored at the World Cup. He comes forward from the kind of left wing back position and then chucks it into the opposite top corner, didn't he?
Yeah, good left foot. But he's also got. He's got options there. Balak finds himself back on the bench. He came with a lot of criticism for playing Balak out of position, didn't he? But Balak actually was doing really well out of position. So
Yeah, yeah,
a
yeah. Eights and sevens,
good,
nine
good run of
games, four
form.
goals.
Nearly a goal every other game. Finds himself on the bench, which shows the confidence that the confidence that the Sloths probably have in their squad at the moment and on the run that they're having.
Yeah, I mean it'll be interesting. And one of the I'm always interested to see how the new players get on. So Kaka obviously didn't get a look in at Chotley really, so it'll be interesting to see how he gets on tonight. And Ndiaye is in the defense. Not the best debut for him, but he's one of the guys that has 20s around. Um, Terrible set piece taker apparently. Man, I didn't know that. But they will kick this one off. How do your prediction for this one? It's the comments are saying wide open, could go either way.
It could. If I was going to stick my neck out, I would say that this run that Astor have been on has to end sometime. So I'd probably have to back Astor tonight.
Is he not a goalkeeper? Okay, well, fair point. Yeah, he doesn't have a goalkeeper on the bench. There might be something about that. Yeah, well spotted. I didn't even notice that. I just go by the names. I couldn't remember if Pastor Soklu was a goalkeeper or not, but there we go. I hope he hasn't got a Greek goalkeeper I could have confused him with. So fingers
Uh,
crossed that Sloth's keeper doesn't get injured. Vic Gauchi is the man in charge tonight. So let's see how this one goes. If Alf can get back to winning ways, or if Sloths can stay unbeaten. Oh, and there's Brookink with your early goal. You did say he could get goals, and I doubted you.
I do like Brugging. He was a big factor in Holland taking Alf's Euros over Christmas.
Hmm. Couple of good chances for Sloths here. They've been good, but they've not been able to dominate games. I think it's fair to say so far.
Yeah, it looks from the commentary that Sloss just can't get into the game at the minute, isn't it?
Yeah. So like weak, small chances, but perhaps weak ones, and from distance, and a bit more of an Aston performance from earlier on in the season. Um, Yeah, I mean, low scoring, low chances, but Brookings with that early goal, sort of setting the scene for that. Zanetti chipped the ball into the penalty area ahead of Brookings, who headed it into the net. So a headed goal, pretty decent first half for Asta. They'll be happy with that, won't they?
Yeah, it felt like they were in control, didn't it? I mean, they're winning most of the challenges. Headers won, tackles won. So they are definitely controlling the game to a certain extent.
Mm-hmm. Sloths ratings. I mean, they've just been kind of average, a little bit below average, all of them. Solari out on the left hand side is a little bit isolated, just hanging around, getting a couple of touches.
Yeah, but I think they have proved to be a team to watch second half, haven't they? So I'm sure Alf isn't really resting on his laurels. I think he'll be. I don't think he'll be too calm and
Hmm.
composed.
No, and it's one of those with that against those super narrow tactics. If you can manage to get control of the game and have the ball, then it's brilliant for you to have wing backs. If you are kind of not really in control of the games, then it kind of sucks because then Santiago Solari is going to do that, isn't he? And just
Yeah,
kind of stand around. Um, for Aston, they've not really managed to get the ball up to the strikers. But I guess if you can keep it tight at the back and then get Brooking to come in with that run from AMC to get the header in, then that's gonna be okay for them. So they'll probably be looking for more of the same in the second half, just keeping Sloth as quiet as possible, and Sloth probably trying to get a little bit luckier with their finishes. I think that was 4 shots and 0 on target. Prediction: do you think Sloth will find the way back in?
no, no, I don't. I think Astro will win this one.
We'll see. 10 minutes into the second half was already. I think it was an early shout for a penalty. I failed to see which side it was due to the fact that they kind of interchanged the blue and white. But someone had a penalty claim turned down. I was going to say there's a couple of chances for Sloths. I just don't feel as if they're dangerous.
No, it is a more even second half, but I just think they're going to see this one out. I think when you've had that sort of run, you'll take any result you can.
I mean, it'll be a huge. Oh,
Oh,
there we
oh,
go. Oh, drama right at the end.
he doesn't have the best of luck, does he, Rob? I do. That's one
No,
thing.
no,
Part of
he
to me
has
is
terrible
has
luck.
the best of luck.
Terrible luck there. Last minute. If this is VAR at its very, very best.
You've got a feel for the lad, haven't you?
Yeah, that was a terrible one. So someone had Andreas, who's clearly got better eyes than me, said that Astor had the claim turned down earlier on in the second half. I was just trying to see if I could find it. Kaka barred Sonny Anderson in the back. The referee turned down claims for a penalty, which was perhaps lucky for Sloss there, but they definitely weren't lucky right at the end of it, were they?
No.
Crespo found himself in some space, and it was Kaka with the cross as well.
Yeah, so Crespo won't be too happy with Rivaldo in the changing rooms there, will he?
No, I mean that's one of the things that you don't see in the modern game. Players that don't influence it being called offside. So Rivaldo standing offside, sort of like 10 yards away, doesn't really wouldn't have mattered in today's VAR world. But yeah, a shame for Sloth there. They probably could have gotten away with a point there. That might have been a fair result. But I mean, I guess it was a fair observation during the game. I mentioned it looked as if they just did not have any kind of dangerous chances, if that makes sense.
I'm wondering whether they were maybe shooting from distance a little bit too much. They weren't. They certainly weren't hitting the target, were they?
Mm-mm. I mean, if you have 8 shots and one on target, it's an easy night for Lehman there. And Bruggen getting man of the match. Again, it's eights all over the board here. Perhaps not really one for the neutrals, apart from the exciting finish.
No, I think, as I said earlier, I think if you're in Asta's position, you just want a win, don't you? You'll take it any way you can get it and then move on. I think
True.
that's exactly what they do here.
Yeah, because you don't want to be sitting on that 9 game. Now I don't have to worry about what to call it anymore. They've got to win, so they've got to be pleased with that. Sloss back to the drawing board for them, so that's a loss for both Sloss and for Dragons this week. So good news for you, good news for Swindon, less good news for those two teams.
Yeah, I think so. I think with Dragons losing as well, I guess Swindon are going to be looking to maybe get a bit closer to those sides.
Hmm.
And yeah, I think we look at Astor as going back to what they do best, which is the the 1-0s, which they had become quite famous for until things started going a little bit too exciting.
Definitely, definitely. So a good evening for Alf so far. Maybe the game not entirely 100%, but but result-wise, the 3 points he's got to be happy. We've got Bolton Phoenix up next. Against Valen United. So this is our top of the table clash. Bolton as Phoenix take on Valen United. Um, Bolton are very strong at home, and we will see the new signing Montella in action. Shame for Henri. I think he scored in the last three. What do you make of Montella's? I mean, at that price, he's got to play him, hasn't he?
Remind me the price.
26 million, I think it was in the end.
£26, right, fair enough. Yeah, I think so. I think don't play him at the expense of a guy who's. I mean, the one thing you look at with Ryan is not a fan of playing two up front, is he? So I mean, you do have to make that choice with the formation he plays. You've got to make that choice of who's going to play up front.
Mm-hmm.
And it is a shame for Henri, but then again, I do like Montella. I know he's not everyone's cup of tea, Montella. I think if I had to stick my neck out, I think he'll have a decent match tonight. And he's obviously got good guys backing him up as well, dangerous guys all over the pitch. And I think if you took Lee Bowyer out of the equation, you've got average ratings wise the best performer in the league, marauding down his right hand side.
Yeah, absolutely. And maybe a little bit surprising, the only kind of weak link in the chain so far this season has been Raul. I mean, not surprising to me because I can't get him to play well. And he's definitely not played well for Bolton either so far. How
Yeah,
important? How again? You can maybe say a little bit of the same as you said about Sloss. He's gone with one up top, but does he have better options on the bench? Terry Henry, for example, would it be better for him to play the two up front with Henry and Montella?
Yeah, but then you could say that about Raul, couldn't you? Do you not think you'd get better performance out of Raul if you had two up top and he was on the left hand side of those two? I think probably the way, apart from the fact that I think is Raul's one of his sort of more kind of influential players, and I think he has been captain at times as well, hasn't he? I think the one thing you don't do is rock the boat, and if you're winning, he's probably loath to make too many changes. The guy might be having sixes or sevens with low morale, but if he's winning games, he doesn't necessarily want to change it, does he?
No, and he doesn't have. If you want to stick to this formation, maybe he doesn't have the best options to replace him. If we look at the Swedes, they've got Roy Keane back. And Alex Pinardi's on the bench. Alex Pinardi, who arrived recently, I think, from
Yeah,
you without having done too much. Any particular reason you got rid of Pinardi?
I had too many players. I've got I've obviously got three guys coming in. I had to at least get three guys going out. Two of my Two of my guys that have gone out have gone to Valen. I don't expect Pinardi to do an awful lot for Valen because I think he'd be the first to admit he's got better players than Pinardi, but he can play a fair few positions, so he's a good man on the bench.
Hmm.
Uh, I think this is a little bit of this is Craig's formation, isn't it? This Hod's formation.
Yeah, it's certainly very similar to that.
So yeah, I think the strongest, possibly the strongest squad, strongest team in the competition. So it'll be a very good game this one. But I fancy Bolton tonight for some reason.
You fancy Bolton tonight, right? Well, we'll see how it goes. We'll kick it off. I mean, I don't know if anyone else has made any kind of predictions. Two informed sides locking horns, says Spifey, which is very accurate. And we'll kick it off, and we'll see if Montella will come good with some of his promise and some of the backing that you amongst others have been giving him, or if Valen will continue their strong run and their unbeaten run, which is 7-8 something like that. It's good anyway. So let's see what happens in this one. Montella went to an early offside position. That's always good.
I mean, the one thing I would say is when we have seen Montella do well in this league, like last season with there we go.
Oh, scores in his debut.
Wasn't he in a two, but
Oh,
you know,
Cafu hit straight back. Verong hit straight back. I think have we had 3 shots on goal and 3 goals?
I think that's how it seems. Yeah, I mean, this one always had a good game written all over it, didn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it's been a little bit. Yeah, it was very quick. It was a very low number of chances compared to what I perhaps expected. Ooh, that's a terrible one for Valen. They really may be missing Totti's creativity in this one. Down 2-1 at half time. You called it with Bolton there. Montella already starting to show his worth. And Verong, of all people, getting some goals and some assists and some good performances from midfield there.
I think we all know how good Veron is, don't we? I think stats wise, he's strong in all areas. Yeah, I think it's just a question of where you play him. He's obviously gone central midfield, hasn't he? Because he's got plenty of options at AMC. So
Hmm.
yeah, I think class players all the way through the side.
You questioned Wes Brown, or questioned. You mentioned that you weren't convinced, and he's only got a 6. Um, Too early to worry, or does he not belong in this side?
No, I think I mean, the reason I flagged him up is because I don't think I mean, he's probably good enough for some teams. If you look at the standard of some teams, I just think when you look at the quality they've got around the rest of the squad, I don't think he is as good as the rest of the team. I mean, I had him in the old incarnation of BTEC, 4 years older, and he still wasn't cutting the mustard. So he would worry me a little bit, yeah.
Hmm. And according to the instructions from Andreas, we've put Pinardi on for the lowest rated, who was Rui Costa. So we'll see if he can come in and make an impact in the second half. Mark Giuliano only getting a 6, obviously struggling up against Montella, and Verong. A little bit surprising that Verong gets that goal coming from so far back. I would have thought Roy Keane would have had that under control. He's not been winning as many of his tackles as he usually are, but I mean, it's a long way home for Bolton, isn't it? I mean, Valen could still come back, couldn't they?
They could do. I mean, one effort doesn't suggest that they're particularly in the game, though, does it? That's the
No.
only thing. I mean, I think if they were to it's one shot, one goal. So if they can maybe get a couple more shots on target, you certainly see them scoring again. It's just whether
Yeah.
they can really get into the game.
Yeah, and let's not forget Bolton had. I mean, Kale's not playing, but they did have a man sent off late on last time out, and Con Diomis, I believe, are one of the strict referees. For those of you who are following the bingo there, so we'll the ref read bingo, but we'll see in the second half if he decides to start flashing the cards. He's perhaps not had much reason to do it so far. Do you
No, it was a
notice?
quick first half, wasn't it? With very little action, really. Just the goals.
True. Um, it looks as if Bolton are off to the better start in the second half as well. Perhaps you need to be Craig to get this formation to fulfill its potential.
Maybe I think Craig plays that way because of the hand that he was dealt as well. I think Valen are probably using the cushion they've got at the top to try a few.
Oh, disallowed for Cafu. Where's half and
Oh,
half when you need them?
Mr. Diametis.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. There's definitely
Yes.
not been he's not doing the away side any favors. Cafu has been absolutely unbelievable. Well, he held on in the end. He held on in the end, but I think Cafu was pretty much involved in everything in that second half.
Yeah, he does. He does like to bomb forward, doesn't he? But I think those stats tell you, don't they, that there was definitely one side that were winning that game, and they won
Yeah,
it.
yeah, convincing performance. Second half, no goals. There was a penalty claim turned. Oh no, it was a disallowed goal rather for Cafu. I'm trying to see if I can spot it. Probably around here. Yeah, Nakata passed the ball into looking for the runner. Cafu had the goal ruled out. Cafu was offside. Yeah, so unlucky there. Unlucky there for Valen and Cafu still getting an 8, getting the goal. Sorin getting the assist, but not the quality of performance that we're used to seeing from Valen, especially like stats wise or average rating wise. They're all on sevens, aren't they? Which is not where we normally find our Swedish friends.
No, but I think if things do tighten up at the top, he's got tried and tested formations to go back to that he knows will work better than that. You won't be away to Bolton Phoenix every week either, so I think he'll be back on track in no time at all.
Pinardi coming on for a 7 without doing anything particularly interesting. Bolton Phoenix, Verong dominating midfield with the passing, if not with the heading, then he's got the assists, he's got the shots, he set up Montella. Good night for Bolton, wasn't it?
I think
Gary
everyone,
Neville with a 9.
yeah, everyone's performed, haven't they? Really, I know switching Neville and around and bringing Zambrotta in was a bit of a turning point for him, but he's got a lot of other guys doing well as well. Bit of a quiet
hmm
night for Figo, but that's what you want as a manager. If someone quietens off, someone else comes in and does the job, and
Yeah.
a solid debut for Montella as well.
Yeah, and that's 7 goals for Verong now from midfield. That's a pretty decent return and a nice debut for Montella. Good to see his goal. Obviously, good to see him getting a goal and and proving his worth. I mean, obviously with a price tag of 26 million and only having scored 4 in 12, then yeah, something was going to happen to turn him around, to turn the supporters around, to make them convinced that it was a good way of spending the money.
Yeah, a little bit surprised that Dragons would go and get rid of Montella like that, to be honest with you, because they're not blessed with a whole lot of goals,
Yeah,
but
they got Shira in instead, Brosek. I don't know. Maybe it'll make sense in the long run. If you've played, let's say, 11 games with him and he scored like 3 or 4 goals, then and you're kind of that's not what you need. Then
no.
maybe you're desperate times, desperate measures, and all that. So, but anyway, this will make it interesting at the top of the table. We'll have a look at that at the end of the night's action. But this will definitely make it a little bit tighter anyway. Next up, we don't have Churchtown. We have Chutley Cannons. We will follow the schedule. So we have Chutley Cannons, and they're at home to Swindon Devils, who have news. Oh, okay, that's interesting. In case you missed it, Thiago's made a bid for Philippe Christenval. That was on the screen there, so that's all good. Let's have a look at Chutley Cannon and how they line up. They've conceded 17 goals in the last 4 games, which is kind of unbelievable, and only picked up 3 points along the way.
Mm.
Um, how will they fare against this improved Swindon side?
Well, you've got to expect them to take the points in this game, haven't you? But another one where does he know his best lineup, and are certain players good enough or experienced enough? I mean, he's got Kerr still playing MC alone in that role. Is he at this stage in his career good enough to hold that position by himself? I mean, he's obviously got very strong players in the three behind him. Um, but he doesn't have many superstars, does he? I think Boomer, obviously, down the left is one of the best players down the left-hand side, but maybe not as a left winger, maybe more as a wing back.
hmm
I don't know. A lot of questions here. Is he relying on Rossini a little bit too much? Extra Barrier, I like. Maybe not there, but who am I to question, Timmy?
Yeah, I mean, as as Kieran mentioned in the comments, Kerr's quality, but I doubt he'd swap him for Barry Ferguson, to be completely honest. But
Oh
maybe
no, his quality is absolutely quality there, no doubt about it. I mean, I won't divulge the amount that I offered to get Kerr in. Last window just gone, but it was certainly more than I paid for Buffon.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
uh,
Perhaps surprising though to see Estebaria in that AMC role rather than in the right wing back or right midfield role where he excelled for Churchtown. What do you think of what do you make of that? Or is that again he doesn't have an AMC to play
I'm not sure who else would go there. If I'm, I, yeah, I guess he's okay there. You would probably prefer to see maybe extra Berea down maybe the
down the
right
flank?
side, maybe. But I mean, then I'm also a little bit surprised that he hasn't got Romadal down the right hand side because he's obviously a big Romadal fan as well.
Yeah.
Uh, so yeah, I don't know. He has his favourites, doesn't he, Timmy? And I think once I think he probably will click at some point once he gets the right 11 in the right places. I think he'll yeah, I think he'll cause a lot of problems and probably sneak in at that top six.
hmm Swindon, who, if we're being honest, have probably gone from a team that everyone wanted to play because it was easy 3 points to a bit of a tricky opponent in the last couple of games here. They've gotten a couple of results recently from unusual positions. They had that big dramatic game. Was it against you? The super dramatic game? I think it
Yeah,
was.
very dramatic. Yeah, I think it was when
and
he was he ended up sort of getting the draw and was probably ended up gutted to get the draw because he looked like he was going to win it at one point.
Yeah, they'll be looking to take advantage of Chudley's defensive worries. Do you think the players that they have at their disposal tonight in these positions will be able to do that? I mean, Inzaghi and Kluivert up front, it's got to be like what we've all been waiting for to see from Swindon Devils. Like no 15-year-old Tomadera, no Johan Elmander for some reason, no Huntela, no none of all this kind of fun and games experimentation stuff. But you're proven two proven good strikers and a decent AMC behind them. Do you think that'll cause Chudley some problems?
Yeah, I'm probably in the minority, but I'd quite like to see him put Tom Madeira alongside Cliver. I know he has got a striker coming in at the end of the season, which is a bit too late for him, and another Inzaghi to add to the list. But I think there is a starting 11 there, which can cause a lot of teams a lot of problems and win a lot of games. But yeah, maybe not. I don't know. He's not all in the right places, are they? Would you like to maybe get Ziraberto a bit further forward to get the assist he's capable of getting? Is Zidane at DMC going to do any better than Deisler getting a red card at DMC? I don't know. Montera's obviously a excellent inclusion.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
loads of good players in there. I'm a big Oliveira fan. I think Oliveira, is a. I have made inquiries about Oliveira in the past. I think he'll do a really good job up there.
Hmm.
But there's obviously a gaping hole right in the middle of the pitch, isn't there? So it's another one with more questions than answers.
Hmm. Well, we'll certainly see what happens. I just have to check something very, very quickly. See, it was a good job I checked because I hadn't put Esteveria on penalties, even though it quite clearly says in the instructions. So it's a good second chance for me to check these things. So all good, but we're ready to kick this one off. You think Chudley will be too much for Swindon Devils, or can they continue their sort of run of getting slightly unlikely results?
I think maybe just too strong, maybe too organised back in the in the position formation that he favours. I think they'll take it, and I think after you've just done that, I think there might even be a penalty. Yeah.
Well, we do have Simon Mikalev on the with the whistle tonight, so you can check the sheet and see how he fares normally and how many red cards he's been handing out this season. He's not our most prolific referee of the evening. I think he's coming up next in the Churchtown against Midlothian clash, but we'll get back to that later. For now, we'll kick off this one and see how it goes for Chutley against Swindon. Obviously, he's got Steve Finnan back. Oh, well, wouldn't
So
you just know it?
I've done all right predictions so far tonight, haven't I?
Yeah, that was. I mean, I wonder what odds you would get for that before the game. A penalty and Estebaria to score it. Yeah, that was kind of bound to happen if you change the penalty taker just before kickoff. Got to feel a little bit sorry for Swindon here. They are doing fairly well, to be honest. I mean, creating a couple of chances, but
They are involved, but there is one side in control, isn't there?
Oh, and that was Finnan. I mean, he did mention he was looking forward to getting Finnan back. I think he'd been a. I saw that Kieran was saying this is terrible. That he plays Finnan ahead of Milevski, but Finnan has been a really top class for him this season in that position, getting 7, 8, 9, and obviously doing very very well. Um, assist for
Well,
Mendes da
we
Silva.
mentioned didn't we, that he has some go-to players, doesn't he? And I think that's a battle there, isn't it? Because they're both kind of go-to players for Tim, and obviously he can't fit them all in the team. So one of his go-to players has to drop to the bench really in that situation.
Hmm. True. Um, yeah, I mean, I can't say I particularly rate either of them. I don't think I've ever owned any of them in a save, but he's obviously doing well for him here. The only player who's not doing anything is Rossini, who's obviously been kept quiet, perhaps by one of the new signings by Montero. Sebastian Mendes as a captain not doing particularly well. No one doing particularly well, to be completely honest, apart from maybe Inzaghi.
Yeah, I mean he's obviously got that block of seven, hasn't he, in front of the goalkeeper, which is probably why the striker is being kept pretty quiet. But
Hmm.
it's the guys following up behind that seem to be doing the business.
But look at the amount of touches that his players have had. I mean, I, I, I know it's a bit of a meme and it's a bit of a joke, but look at how many passes your keeper completes. And if he doesn't complete a single pass, then your tactics or your instructions for your keeper are wrong. That's not difficult because every time Constanzo has the ball, he's given it straight back to Chudley. And you can see from the amount of touches and stuff that the players have had that that's probably, I mean, if not the key part of the problem, then certainly part of it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how far he gets his instructions to you, but I don't know how easy that is to convey what he wants Costanzo to do and how he's supplying his instructions. Don't know what those instructions are. But
I
yeah,
can't. I can't
it's
remember them.
something.
They might be brilliant. I can't remember them. They might not be the keeper's fault. It might be because the defenders are under pressure or whatever. But if I look at that, I'm thinking, is that really good? Is that what you're looking for? Unless it's long. I mean, if he set the keeper to kick long, then maybe he'll lose all of them if he doesn't have any good ones to head the ball. But either way, that's just my little pet hate that people don't pay any attention to the keeper's distribution. Maybe a bit of a
Yeah,
petty one, but there we go.
I mean, on the plus side, he's obviously the highest average rating of a goalkeeper in the league, so he's doing something right.
Yeah, he's making plenty of saves. But if he rolls the ball out to an attacker every single time, then he's also got plenty of opportunity, and it does look a little bit like that's what's going on here. But either way, um, quite a dominant performer. Any way back into this for Swindon?
No, he's not in the game, and he's got too many guys at the back, hasn't he? With that block, I think to probably get forward, it's another example here of where you're going to have to hope that all your shots on goal go in, and if that isn't the case, they don't get a point.
Mm. Well, we'll see. Maybe with an early goal in the second. Oh well, what do you know? Maybe with an early goal in the second half, maybe with another early goal in the
Well,
second half, it's
look,
we're back to square one. It's all to play for.
chances going in,
And here
all the
comes
chances.
Ian Hart. What? And still Roberto's picking up an injury. Hopefully it's not too bad. That's gone really well. He
I
hasn't
hope it's
got
not too bad
fucking
because
got anyone to play here. Well, we'll play
he's coming to
Egiok,
the end of the season.
and that'll be it. I mean, c-
Oh, oh,
can they hold on?
I hope he holds on. Bless him. Yes. Well,
Well, everyone's going to be playing Heather Small songs to their teams in the dressing room now if that's the result.
how many
Um,
shots? How many shots did he have?
just the three, yeah.
Just yeah.
Yeah, it
So
scored
poor
all.
God.
I mean, Timmy's going to be. Yeah, I mean, but he he was struggling a little bit with his keeper selections, and I know that people have said about Sebastian Frey, but I'm not sure if that's going to be a solution. But Sander Westerveld committing a penalty, losing all his confidence, and letting in another two goals. That's, I mean, yeah, he got chapped there, didn't he? I mean, 4 shots, 3 goals. That's how it goes. So well done, Swindon. Didn't expect Ian Hart to be man of the match at halftime, but that's how it goes.
Yeah, well played to him. I mean, as I say, the only way they're getting back in that game is if every time the ball went near the net, it went in, and
Hmm.
that's exactly what happened. So I think if he looks at the way the results have gone tonight, and he would have been hoping for something because otherwise it was a bit of a waste. So yeah, well played to him. And I
Yeah.
suppose the only good thing Timmy can say is at least he hasn't conceded four,
Yeah,
which he
yeah,
has
yeah.
been doing.
It's you know,
It's an, it's
it's
an
one
improvement.
it's one down on the average, but
Yeah.
I mean, what what else can you do? You've got all your players playing relatively well. Most of them are winning the majority of their tackles. Everyone's had shot, and most of them is on target. I mean, yeah, it's just one of those days. So a great dominant performance from Ian Hart and Swindon. Let's see what happened with the penalty that kind of set the ball rolling. Inzaghi was brought down by Westerveld in the area, and a penalty was awarded. Only a yellow card for the keeper though, but Kluivert then obviously scored it, and that was it.
Yeah. Well
Ian
played.
Hart dribble past a central defender. Yeah, because that happens all the time. Yeah, well, fair
Well,
play, fair play to
it'll
Swindon.
be
A big,
interesting to see who plays in goal for him next time out because he has been very loyal to Vesterveld and he does have Frey on the bench and he's also signed Roy Carroll off me, so it'll be
mhm.
interesting to see who does play in goal for him next time out.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be surprised if it's Westerveld, to be honest, after that performance. I mean, you come out, you dominate the first half, you've got everything under control, and all you need to do is to not fuck it up, and your keeper does that. But I mean, at least he didn't get sent off. But either way, Zinedine Zidane, someone's asking about his performances.
Sixth.
He's got a six because he's not a defensive midfielder, funnily enough. So, so there you go. But everyone else did really, really well. So, brilliant result for Swindon Devils, champing Judley Cannons. I think that's a second proper champing of the season. I can't remember the first one, but there was definitely been one before. So yeah, that's how it goes in the Super League. You can never be too sure of what's going to happen. So all good, all good.
Be first up on match of the day, that one.
First up on match of the day, certainly a comeback, and with that disallowed goal for Sloss, we've had some fairly exciting last minute games and exciting second halves. It's not due yet. We've got Churchtown, I think, coming up next, according to the schedule. So we'll see if we can find that. That's an exciting guy for you. We'll see if he gets on amongst the goals tonight. There's a couple of exciting faces for you as well. So we'll come back in a minute. I think Ian will be will be wanting to chip in. The other Ian, I still can't pronounce those two names different, even though they're spelled differently. But never mind. Um, Churchtown, they've welcomed the league's worst away side. So Midlothian, terrible away from home,
Yeah.
genuinely terrible. Um, However, I mean, they've got new signings in, but Churchtown have their own new signing. Shuaibu, Ishola Shuaibu from the famous Julius Berger down in Nigeria. That's where they are. Um, what do you make of this? This is a bit of a wild card, isn't
Yeah,
it?
good. I mean, obviously on your home saves, good guy when you can get a permit for him if you're in the right league. And I think playing those three the way he does behind the striker, and playing against a side that don't have a great away record. I think if you are going to make a change and try a guy out, that's the position in the pitch to do it. And a very consistent side. I think he'll be looking at the way the results have gone tonight and fancying closing the gap a little bit further on Valen. I'd expect him probably to do so. Excellent side, yeah, and
Hmm.
consistency, team selection, formation. If it's not broke, don't fix it.
Yeah,
And
he seems to have settled on this formation. He's used that for a few of his last games, and obviously results have been going quite well for him. And very conceding very few goals. Churchtown as well. We spoke about that before with the defensive partnership that they have. Um, if we look at Midlothian, so he's got two new signings, I think, in his starting 11. He's got Roberto Carlos on that left back. Are you surprised to see? I mean, considering how well Ian Hart played tonight, then obviously they're not missing him down at Swindon. But a little bit surprised to see him go, maybe.
Yeah, I like Roberto Carlos. Again, I want to bang on about the previous incarnation of the Super League. He was absolutely brilliant for me. The old B-Tech Roberto Carlos in that position, and one position further forward. I don't think Ian wanted to go the whole season playing Eric Addo at left back, so something had
Hmm.
to be. Um, I think he'll hope for more from his centre backs because he's pretty blessed with decent centre backs, but they haven't all really performed for him. But obviously, we're all mainly excited to see how Back does, and I can see he's so excited. He's made him captain as well.
Yeah, he's got 20 influence, so why not? He's
Yeah,
he's he's looking forward to seeing back in action.
yeah, they are some nice stats. Yeah,
Uh-huh. And yeah, absolutely. As Fifey points out, I was just about to mention it. We have seen this tactic somewhere else. We saw it in the last match, and it's exactly the same as Swindon's tactic. For those for those wondering, I mean, my Polish is not up to much, but I do know that the kind of the friendly version of this particular first name is Arek, because yeah, there were several Danish footballers with this, oh sorry, Polish footballers in the Danish league back in the 90s who had this particular first name, and they are called Arek if you're in doubt. Um, with regards to this lineup here, same as Swindon, are you surprised to see that from Midlothian, or
same
will
as
it get them
same as
results?
Swindon. Apart from he's gone a bit more defensive, playing two AMCs instead of two strikers, hasn't he? I don't know. I just never like that gaping hole in the middle. It just doesn't. It's not something I ever do. I like somebody in there in the middle.
Hmm.
So I mean, he's got to do something, hasn't he? He's done nothing away from home, so he's got to do something.
Yeah,
So,
I'm surprised to see Carsten Ramelov on the bench, maybe DMC with 13 appearances, 5 assists, and 679 average.
yeah, but then he is
And he
sticking by
leaves Scally
Scally.
on.
And
Scally
Neil
with
Scally,
8 games and
yeah,
a 7 average. He leaves him
and I
on
think
for
this time
Ramelov.
we probably can't drop him, but yeah.
Mm. Well, if Scally doesn't play well, then I'll be on to him in the DMs immediately after the game. Only joking, Ian. I'm sure I'm sure you'll do very well. Maybe a repeat of Swindon's performance from last time out. How do you see this one going? Will Midlothian with their defensive tactic be able to make it 0-0, or do you think Churchtown too strong at home?
Well, I was doing well with predictions, wasn't I, till half time in the last match? So
Hmm.
now I'm not sure because I would have said it's got a Churchtown victory written all over it. But similar to how we talked about Alf's run, certain things have to come to an end at some point, and Midlothian have to pick up a point away from home at some point. But if you want me to put my house on it, I would say victory to Churchtown tonight.
Right. Well, we'll have a look and see what Churchtown can come up with. A couple of new signings from outside of the league, so that'll be exciting to see how they get on. But good luck to both sides, and let's see. We've got Wayne Dade in charge. If anyone has that sheet, they might want to check it now and try and remember if they've set tackling to hard or normal, because that could be crucial for this game. Uh, Decent start. I've seen Back's name mentioned a couple of times. Ian will
Yeah,
be
a
very
couple
keen on that.
of they're in the game, Midlothian.
Definitely, definitely in the game, and Kessman getting the goal there. Yeah, it's not been particularly impressive for Churchtown so far. It's, good chances for both sides. We've yet to see Back putting one away, but Midlothian getting the better of the first half.
Totally getting the better in the first half. It didn't look that one-sided, but they definitely looked like they were possibly the better team. I didn't think they were. I think they didn't think they kept Churchtown that quiet, but yeah, really impressive.
Hmm. And I mean, obviously they're running with that formation that Swindon had. Not getting the most out of Captain Back so far. Neil Scally picking up a yellow, but apart from that, kind of decent performances. Klumper maybe just from inactivity that he only gets a 6.
Yeah, you can't argue any of that, can you? Really? I mean, if you've only got 3 6s and everyone else is 7 or 8s, and you're away to a good side like this, then yeah, doing really well.
Hmm. Definitely. And Churchtown, disappointed with that first half performance. Not even getting, don't even, not even a shot on target for them.
No, maybe I was wrong in saying that he had the luxury of being able to bring the new guy in. maybe that has disrupted because he hasn't performed as yet. Maybe Mackay kicking his heels on the bench, maybe thinking he should be there instead of him. But long
Yeah.
way to go. I mean, a great side still. You could see more goals in this one. I'll
Yeah.
be if Ian keeps a clean sheet here, then he very very well deserves
Yeah,
deserves.
clean sheet away from home to Churchtown, and an away win, the first away win of the season would be great. But yeah, as Alf said there, just remember the last game, second half, and how things can turn around. So we'll see what happens in the second half. There's people like Edgar Davids and all that still not doing much in this game who could come into it and make a change for Churchtown. Although it seems as if they're still holding them at bay.
They're still in the game as well, aren't they? Really, they're still contributing as much as Churchtown are.
Yeah, definitely. Oof. Was it back? Was it
Well,
back who almost scored a goal?
I thought he was in.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, if only Back could have finished it. Oh, and here's a boy.
Oh,
Here's someone who's having a debut. It's the young Nigerian who pulls one back for Churchtown, or who equalizes for Churchtown rather,
oh,
and a couple of good chances for Churchtown right at the end. So, I mean, an improvement results-wise for Midlothian, but perhaps unhappy not to have taken 3 points after that first half.
I think with the goal coming so late as well, he probably thought he had it there, and you can't blame him. Yeah, it's a bit of a shame for him there because I
Hmm.
mean, I got absolutely battered by Churchtown. I think if you go away at Churchtown and you get anything, you've done really well. But getting that close to thinking you've got everything, it's got to be a bit of a kick.
Hmm. And if we're looking at the performances in the second half, they kind of stayed okay. I mean, Harry Kewell, the only one that didn't really do much. Back with that his one shot that he obviously didn't score. So perhaps not the best debut that he could have hoped for.
No, but he turned his 6 into a 7. He captained the side to the first away point of the season. So you've got to say improvement for Ian, haven't you? Really.
Yeah, absolutely. If we're looking at Churchtown, so Barry Ferguson, man of the match again, most influential player, and Shuaibu didn't take long to find his feet in the league with that goal in the second half.
Yeah, and again, after I pointed out that maybe Mackay should have been in the team ahead of him at half time, my predictions have all gone to shit, haven't they?
Yeah, well, he was sitting. He'll still be sitting there kicking his heels, thinking, "Shit, I'm not going to get a game next week either, am I?" That'll
So
probably be his considerations now. And after all that, the talking of people like Maldini or whatever, we've got sort of Chinsky, we've got Barry Ferguson, who are really the two guys pulling the heavy load there. Barry Ferguson, we spoke about him just briefly. We mentioned him when we were talking about Mark Kerr. Best central midfielder in the game, maybe.
best loan MC in the Super League, yeah. I think they're hard to come by, aren't they? Decent MCs, really. There's not that many of them. You very
Hmm.
often you have to play an AMC or a DMC slap bang in the middle.
Hmm.
So I think anyone who was ever going to be able to prize Ferguson away from Kieran would have to spend a hell of a lot of money
Hmm.
and then probably still get turned down.
Yeah, I think despite their point, I think with Swindon's away win at they still remain the worst away side in the Super League, if I'm not mistaken. We can check that later anyway, but it's still
I
a
think
point
I'll
for
be running them
Midlothian.
close.
Sorry.
I think I'll be running them close.
You think so? Well, it's still a point for Midlothian. They're still going to be fairly happy with it. Maybe they would have, considering the first half performance, perhaps they'd be a little bit disappointed not to be able to continue that. But a strong comeback from a really strong Churchtown side. So that's how it goes. Hoddesdon Hornets are up next, so that'll be you in action against
Oh,
them.
right, okay.
So time to get nervous. As you can see here, you're up against the two new signings from outside of the league, so that'll be interesting. You've got Rio Ferdinand as your own new signing, so that'll be interesting as well. Hoddesdon Hornets, any surprises with the tactics? He asks sarcastically.
No, no, he's taken Valens tactics, hasn't he, for this one, and going to see how they work for him. No, only joking. No, we knew what Craig was going to do, didn't we? But I guess it's Petrov coming in is the difference. I guess Hurtado coming in. It's the two new guys that maybe make the difference. But just a really good manager, isn't it? So he knows what he's doing. There's obviously going to be loads of instructions behind the scenes that are going to probably get the best out of those. What you would probably say on paper, a bunch of quite average guys till you get to the top two. Maybe apart from Lucio, who's obviously strong at centre back.
Hmm.
Um, I mean, we played really well against Hodgson at the start of the season. So, but then again, it was at home. So, um, yeah, not massively confident.
And he seems to have found his new first choice keeper there. That was a bit of an Achilles heel for him. That he used Landreau for a while, and I mean he did okay, but then he had a 4 and a 5.
Yeah, I mean, he likes Landreau, doesn't he? And obviously we knew that before the season started that he quite likes Landreau.
Hmm.
But you can't keep your players in the team after a 4 and a 5. So
And is it a genuine improvement on what he's had before? Petrov, I mean, Petrov is rated by a lot of people, but funnily enough, no one else was after him. Hurtado is I mean, I think we all know him from just looking at his stats. You know, if you do this kind of attribute search, he kind of almost always comes up, no matter what position you search for. And Petrov is certainly he's young, but he's very very strong as well.
mm,
Um, how do you think those two guys will do in the Super League?
I think Petrov will do well. I don't know whether Hurtado is a massive improvement on Southgate first season, but they're both obviously really good players. And
Hmm.
again, I think it's probably mainly down to the manager as opposed to the players. It's what you can get out of them, which is usually plenty.
Hmm. Your tactic is the same as you had. I mean, if if you're working for, you don't have to be, you don't have to work for MI5 or be Sherlock Holmes to figure out that it's the same one as you used against Arsenal at home last week, because it kind of
Absolutely,
says.
yeah. Well,
That worked okay for you.
Well, victories have been few and far between for me, haven't they? So, I mean, what I've said quite a lot is that what I need to do really is to try and latch onto a win and find some consistency. So, the plan for me was as soon as I saw a bit of an upturn in performance, it was to kind of try and build on that and maybe not change too much, perhaps. So Palermo's done well up front on his own. I've got runners in the middle, Agahauer and Dyer.
Hmm.
Vogel got a chance to come back in last time out and did okay, so he stays. Um, my issue was that I have no. I mean, Kivu's had to move over. He's played every single game at centre back. He's had to move over to left back because I've got Pio out. I've got Ashley Cole out,
Hmm.
which it's nice that I've been able to give Ferdinand his debut, but I think in an ideal world he would have been playing alongside Kivu.
Hmm. Yeah. So. With the changes that you've made, the big spenders of the league with Ferdinand and Buffon coming in for a good sum of money there for you. Um, are you expecting things to turn around quickly? I mean, you kind of have to, but do you think that'll be enough? Do you think you've done enough in bringing in those two, or are you looking at further strengthening? I think you've got maybe one more potential deal lined up.
Yeah, I mean, because of the injuries that I have had, the third guy probably would have played because he would have allowed me to keep Kivu at centre back.
Hmm.
Other than that, if I was probably playing against a different manager and maybe if I was still at home, I'd be thinking, yeah, let's have a bit of momentum and things might turn around. This will be a big test for us though. If I can get something out of this game, I'll think maybe yes, I can turn it around because it would be getting something out of this game would be a really good result for me.
Well, we'll kick it off. I won't ask you for a prediction, but we'll kick it off and we'll see how it goes. So BTEC away to Hodgson Hornets, with a couple of new faces for both sides. Good early chance for Palermo. Petrov must be careful. Picked up a yellow there. We've not had any red cards this evening so far, have we? Just thought I'd mention it.
Cheers.
And there was even a goalkeeper committing. There was even Westerveld even only got a yellow. That's rare. You see that in CM for a goalkeeper uh, committing a foul. Kalushny, Danielson, you've had a couple of chances. Good run down the flank a couple of times from Kivu as well. He is a very good DL as well. I mean, I know you prefer him in the center, but he's very good on that left back as well.
Yeah, sorry if I went a bit quiet there. I tend not to breathe during my own match. So it's hard to talk when you're not breathing. But yeah, I think we did okay, didn't we? We're definitely got a foothold in the game. Be nice to be able to take a chance or two.
Yeah, looking at the stats of your players, Palermo, obviously, we saw him popping up a couple of times, doing quite well.
Yeah, I mean, ratings wise, they are pretty average, aren't they? But you just need one or two chances to be taken, and in a couple of players to improve second half. But I guess I don't want to speak too soon, but we are a little bit more solid than we have been. So there is progress, but then again, we are up against a couple of really good strikers. So I won't be counting my chickens just yet.
hmm And if you look at Hornets' performance so far in the first half, anything that stands out for you there? Petrov not doing particularly well.
Uh, Similar to us, aren't they? Really, haven't they haven't really got going, and they've had plenty of the ball, but not done an awful lot with it. I mean, let's hope they don't get going.
Yeah, well, let's hope for you. I mean, I'm sure Greg wouldn't be so so generous with his guests if he was here to defend himself. Lucio done well, Hurtado with the 7, David Dunn obviously doing quite well as well. Etu, there's such a mixed bag of like people that you would never want anywhere near your team, and some pretty good players actually. So it's a funny old one, and Batistuta obviously still close to the top of the top scorer chart. I think he's on 10, but we've not seen much from him tonight. So I'm guessing you're hoping that'll continue in the second half.
Nice.
Well, we'll kick it off. So deep breath, and I'll talk us through the second half, and I'll get back to you in 45 minutes.
Cheers.
A good early chance there for BTEC again. I think it was Dyer and Akahawa. Those long runs are kind of working for him. And there was Dan. Oh,
Uh,
they disallowed goal. Alf called it in the comments already. Danielson to get a goal. It's a third, I think, third or fourth disallowed goal of the evening. A really big blow for BTEC if they continue to not convert the chances, of which they have many, by the way, of which they have many. 20 minutes to go. Again, lots of runs from Dyer. Oh, and then there's a penalty, and Batistuta does not miss those, does he? Can they find a way back, or will they continue to miss chances? Hurtado clears it. Danielson again for the top corner, and
oh,
Danielson again.
that's tough to take.
That's a bitter one. That's a bitter one. A disallowed goal and then a penalty with 4 minutes to play. 17. I mean, you're really onto something with these tactics, though, with regards to creating chances.
Yeah, and we hit the woodwork as well as having the goal disallowed. So, but yeah, like we were talking about earlier, it's all well and good having green shoots, but this time in the season you need points.
Yeah. Gosh, yeah, absolutely, definitely. But a much improved second half in terms of chances and entertainment for the neutrals. If we want to bring up that old chestnut about the neutrals, let's see what happened there. Danielson had a great opportunity. Danielson scored. He'd stayed fractionally
Yeah,
offside from
well,
Ferdinand's cross. Ferdinand dribbled past Batistuta. What's going on? Well, he was good with the ball at his feet, wasn't he, Ferdinand? Really. So I
yeah,
guess
he's not following my instructions. That's for sure.
what to run forward and try through balls. You don't have that on your central defenders. That's
No,
fine.
not crossing the ball in either.
Yeah. Shot took a deflection off the wall. There was a few things there. Kufu perfectly tackle. I'm just looking through here again. Dennison with a good free kick. I mean, you're creating a lot of chances. You're really creating a lot of chances. Do you think Boston has got man of the match? Will that be?
Uh, he could have done, couldn't he? I mean, only 7 of them were on target out of me 17. So
Oh, well, we'll have a look. I just wanted to see what the penalty was. Sigalko went down from a shove from Contra. That's a bad one at the end of the game. I think wasn't he the one with the own goal as well, Contra?
yes,
Yeah,
yeah.
so
But
he's
I can't be too critical of him because he's been pretty good for me this season. I
yes,
like
that
I like Cosmin. We won't have too much said bad about Cosmin.
fair enough, fair enough. It was Lucio who eventually got the man of the match for I don't know for what, for allowing you only 17 shots on target. I guess it could have been worse for Hoddesdon. So solid performance all around for Hoddesdon. They do tend to do that. Just a little bit disappointed maybe that you didn't get any goals out of all those chances because you did have chances, and as I mentioned in the commentary in the second half, your two running guys there, Dyer and Agahawa, they seem to be causing all sorts of trouble, even though they maybe don't have much to show for it on this particular stats page.
Yeah, I don't know what to say really. To be honest, there's obviously I mean, you fix one problem, don't you? At the back, you become a bit more solid at the back, and then you create more problems by not being as sort of lethal up top. So it's about finding that balance, isn't it? And we just haven't found that balance all season. If I shut up shop, I can't score goals, and if I'm scoring goals, I'm conceding them as well. So
Mm, mm. Still, only conceding one, and that was a last minute penalty. I mean, it could have been a lot better for you guys, I think, with that run. So it's unusual to have 17 shots and 7 on target away from home, and perhaps even more unusual to not even have anything to show for it. But a decent performance, I think, all round from BTEC and from the players. Obviously, good performances from the new boys, Buffon and Ferdinand. I'm certainly not one to suggest that you should start looking at next season already, but at least you can sort of have some kind of confidence that you're not starting. If you don't get to the playoffs this season, then you're not starting completely from scratch. You do have a solid foundation here with those two guys coming in, and there must be goals somewhere. There must be goals somewhere in that team, mustn't there?
yeah, well, I can start to look for goals now because the two guys that I've got coming in the next window shore me up even further at the back, and I can start looking at maybe improving things up front now instead.
Yeah, a bit more creativity maybe for. I mean, it's difficult to find more creative players than Mr. Agagawa here. I mean, he's also still young, so there's time and room for him to improve. Dyer should I mean, he's already doing okay. So, but yeah, well, we'll see how you kick on from this. Hopefully, or kick back rather, or whatever you call it. Get back into the points. Hopefully for you guys. But a good win for Hoddesdon, and it's looking as if there's well, we'll see the table. We'll see the table. I'll leave my comments until we look at it because we've still got one more game to go. We've got Panathinaikos at home to Hooligans, I think. Or is it the other way around? No, I think it's Panathinaikos at home. Harasimovic obviously making the debut for Panathinaikos, as you mentioned in the video. If you haven't watched Parma's video in bed, then now is not the time to do it. But after the show, you can definitely go and have a look. This is his tactic.
Uh,
Yeah. How how do you explain that?
well, it's hard to explain from the point of view of, well, look at it, but it's also hard to explain from the point of view that he's been doing really well with these other formations as well. So it's whether there was a need to change anything is probably the bigger question, and look what he's changed it to.
Hmm.
But I don't know. Is I mean, Sand is still in there, but obviously just not playing up front. So I don't know. I don't like it, but then it might work.
Yeah, well, I haven't liked many of his tactics, but he's still up there in the league, isn't he? Third, fourth, whatever. So yeah, it's been okay. Nicky Butt is in the starting lineup as well.
Yeah,
Perhaps surprising, or do you think he'll do a decent job for Panathinaikos? I mean,
I
his
think
stats are kind of good. He didn't get much of a chance for Ardsley, but he got 2 assists in the last game.
yeah, he's a good acquisition, isn't he? I think he had to get rid of Okoronkwo to get Butt in, didn't he? That was the deal.
Hmm.
Which was a bit of a strange one considering I know he didn't rate a lot of his other defenders, but he obviously felt he needed Butt
Hmm.
in there. So maybe looking at that, it was maybe a striker he should have been going for if he doesn't rate any of them highly enough to not play one.
Yeah, I mean, Vasiuk is good and has got very, very good both goals and assists. Nikiforenko as well with the goals. So yeah, so I mean, we'll let Palmer do what Palmer does, and yeah, and we'll see how that goes. Yeah, and Bisari, he came in and did okay, I guess, in the last game. Hooligans, not much to say about the formation, I guess.
Well, I mean, obviously we knew what it would be.
Hmm.
What most of the players are going to be, given who he's at the moment, who he's got to choose from. They're obviously dangerous players. Um, I know we were talking about maybe when he got his injuries and Kennedy being the weak link, but he's actually come in and I think he's made a good contribution, hasn't he? So he's kind of proved his worth to the team as well.
Hmm.
Um, I don't know. My gut feeling would maybe say that they might take advantage of this sort of gamble of a formation and and perhaps turn Panathinaikos over.
Yeah, well, we'll see. We'll kick it off and we'll see, so we can maybe keep the show under 2 hours. Possibly, we'll see. We'll kick this one off and see if Palmer's 0 up top will be enough to get one over on hooligans. Um, Early chances, early signs are good.
Yeah, well, I mean, he's still got them guys going forward, hasn't he? He's got them all getting forward. It's just that none of them are up there as a focal point, but obviously getting chances. Yeah,
Oh, first red card of the
Wound.
season for Ronaldinho. I didn't expect this game to have a red card in it, but we'll go. I'll leave it as is, I think.
And this is Barry Pinella's second match of the night, isn't it?
Yeah, because he was in charge of yours as well, apparently. This definitely opens up the door for Panathinaikos and this formation. So well, we'll see if he's able to take advantage. Of course, defensively it's still pretty much the same for hooligans, but they should have more of the ball now, Panathinaikos, with that gap in the AMC role for hooligans. Although Kennedy runs into that when they do have possession, which is why I didn't feel the need to kind of change anything for him.
Yeah.
Yeah, so 0-0 at half time. That's probably not what they were hoping for.
No, I think hooligans probably take this at the moment, looking at all those, looking at those stats, wouldn't they? Looking at what is probably going to be a very long 45 minutes for them coming up. I think they'd love to take a 0-0 right now, but it's just a case of whether no strikers can get a goal.
Yeah, I mean, I guess they've still had shots. It looks as if they're playing with strikers. If you're looking at the stats and the number of shots on goal, let's see what happened with Ronaldinho there. Ronaldinho hacked down Nedved with 2 feet.
Oh, nasty!
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's a little bit unlike him. I don't think Ronaldinho's got a reputation of hacking down people. So, yeah, unfortunate. But Kyotis really standing strong in goal. He's already got a 9 at halftime. That's probably the only saving grace. And Walter Samuel doing, or Walter Samuel doing a pretty good job there in the central defence as well.
I guess my concern there, Kiotis at the minute is the lowest average rating of any goalkeeper in the league, isn't he? So can he hold out for 45 minutes?
Well, he's certainly out to try and change that. Let's see. Let's kick off the second half and let's see if we can get a goal for Parma or if hooligans will continue to deny them. They do also have Ronaldo and Anelka up front.
Oh,
Oh, and Desai of all people. Sorry, I will just have to double check the team instructions for this one. I'm just double checking Palmer's instructions for this one. Nope, it was a halftime change that was not needed, so that's fine. We'll see. They've obviously still got more than 20 minutes. They could still get back into this, but it looks like Kyotis is having an absolute blinder.
it does.
Just yeah, they're preventing them. They're preventing them from getting anywhere near a good
Yeah,
chance, and when they do, he's stopping them.
what a result.
I'm gonna put my neck on the line here and say that Kyotis is going to be a 10 and a man of the match.
Certainly man of the match, 9 or a 10.
He only
9.
he only gets a 9. Maybe because he completed 0 out of 14 passes. What is it with you guys and keepers that can't fucking pass the ball? Yeah. So praying works. Stop
Yeah, and
press. Praying works, according to Thiago. Is it too early to write off the 0 at the back or 0 at the front tactic?
well, it answers the question, doesn't it? What do you get if you play no strikers?
You
No
get
goals.
you get a super keeper up the other end. I mean, if you look at the formation wise, tactics wise, everything, I mean, you can't say he's done much wrong, can you really? I mean, apart from not scoring, it's not even as if his strikers are like shooting into the night sky or anything like that. They've all got shots on target.
Yeah, and they've all done okay, and they've all had sevens, but they haven't. In all seriousness, they haven't done as well as they would have done had he put out one of his standard successful formations, which he seems to have changed for reasons I can't figure out.
Or at least left Sand up top. At least left one striker in. I mean, there's nothing to say with hooligans three at the back. There's nothing to say that would have worked. I don't think that if you have 11 shots on target, I don't think it's only down to the attacking players and their shots, because as you can see, like 6 of them came from Nikiforenko from midfield, and he's played there before and he scored 5 goals already this season. So it's not as if he can't get goals from that position. So Nedved has scored as well this season. So, but either way, um, and an interesting result, and it keeps it interesting at in the table, which we will go to have a look at now. First of all, a quick rundown of all the results from this evening. So Ardsley Celtic, not Athletic. Ardsley Celtic. That's why I was struggling. With that big 5-3 win over Dragon Destroyers, a bunch of goals from Orientis and Tristan, and Dragons, who had such a good defense previously, for some reason didn't tonight. Astra got that 1-0 victory over Sloths, who stay in 13th. They had the late goal disallowed, if I remember rightly. There's Bolton. There's with their 2-1 win over Valen, who came back in the second half after a poor performance in the first. They're still missing Totti, obviously. Chudley Cannons with that. Yeah, well, we talked about getting champed. I think Palmer obviously was at the end of one of the other champings of the evening. Churchtown and Midlothian, a 1-1. Poor first half from Churchtown, came back in it. Back didn't score, but Shuaibu, the new Nigerian, got the goal for Churchtown, the equaliser. Hornets, narrow win in a quite open and entertaining game. Surprising it was only 1-0 again against BTEC with Buffon obviously doing quite well. And then this last curious encounter between Palmerton Icos and Hooligans, where Palmer were 70 minutes against 10 men and somehow failed to score. So a decent night for Bolton, and who else had a decent night? Let's have a look at the table. Yeah, getting tight at the top.
Yes, I was looking at those results and thinking that, but getting a bit bunched up because sixth place obviously won, catching up with fifth place. Hoddesdon catch up a little bit to Churchtown, a bit fortuitously, but obviously top side losing always going to help it bunch up. And I guess big winners of the night probably is Astor and Ardsley, because they look breathing down the necks of Parma now.
Yeah, they Midlothian and Chudley, not out of it, but they certainly lost a bit of ground there. And yeah, and it's 9 points now for you guys up to Hooligans. So that's possibly not looking too great. I mean,
No.
you'll potentially be at home next, I guess, but you got to get those 3 points in now, don't you?
Well, I know we deserve the 3 points tonight and came away with nothing. So you can't keep saying you deserve stuff that you don't get. It's all about
Hmm.
what you get on the board, and we haven't got enough on the board. So
Yeah.
simple as that.
And Swindon only 4 points behind Sloths now, and 5 points behind Dragons. They'll be looking to get off the bottom possibly, and if they play someone other than Zidane and Deisler at DMC, that might even happen.
And I think he rightly will be believing that he can get off the bottom, because not just tonight, but he has shown improvements over the past few weeks as well, and he showed that he's a team who can get stuck in and cause a lot of teams problems.
Yeah, as we mentioned, they are now seen as a tricky side to be up against, rather than what should be an easy 3 points, really, with the recent changes that he's made and with the signings as well. So definitely well done there to Fifey and the boys down in Swindon. Valen United still with a good home record. They'll be looking to maybe get back to winning ways next time they're at home. Down at the bottom, yeah, there's still a few teams. That's maybe where Swindon really need to maybe be a little bit more better at home. It's
Yeah, I think the success that they've had with that block of seven at the back away from home has done them well. I think whether they might need to maybe put one of those, if you move Zidane forward a little bit perhaps and show it a bit more going forward when you're at home.
hmm
I mean, it isn't a similar boat to me. I mean, there's going to come a point now you've got to just look for points, haven't you? And you might as well lose 5-0 if you're going to. You might as well go for it though.
Yeah, but I mean, but then again, with his result today, I guess he'll probably stick with it with that second half performance and hope for the best. Churchtown, who are where are they again? Churchtown, who are second in the table, um, have the 11th best home record,
Mm.
perhaps surprisingly, picking up a bunch of points away from home. So if they can turn that home form around, they should be really they should be cruising, shouldn't they? I mean, 16 points away from home. That is head and shoulders above everyone else, really. But as we saw tonight, it was a 1-1 draw with Midlothian, who are terrible away. Um, what's what does he need to do, Kieran, to get more points at home?
I don't know if I'm the right guy to ask. I mean, I suppose actually, I suppose I probably am because I've got more points at home than he has. So, but I don't know. One thing I would say is it's probably a lot easier to turn your fortunes around at home than it is away from home. So if you are going to have problems, if they are at home, then it is going to be an easier job for him.
Mm.
And I think probably teams back end of the season probably need to look out a little bit for Churchtown because I think they probably will get it to click at home, and then some teams will find it tough against them.
Hmm. And on the topic of turning around your away form, you said it's going to be tricky.
I think we kind of had tonight. I mean, to go away to Hoddesdon and be the better team, probably comfortably for 90 minutes, the better team. Performance-wise, we have turned it around. We just haven't put the ball in the net. That's the problem.
So still the only team without a point away from home, BTEC Troopers after
Yep.
Midlothian. So perhaps slightly surprising draw at Churchtown here. Um, that's what the league looks like. I don't think there's any huge changes in the player stats. We'll have a quick look at the goals because I think Morientes and Batistuta are now also on 11 after their goals tonight, and Rossini failing to score. Um, we'll have a little bit more of an in-depth look at the strikers later on, so I'll leave that for tonight. I mentioned something about the assists. Yeah, Cafu is up on 7 assists. Estebaria with 6. Ferguson on 7, obviously being top of the pile, but it was Giggs that I mentioned earlier. So really, one of the most effective players in the league when it comes to assisting goals is Ryan Giggs on that left fullback, which is perhaps a little bit surprising to many.
Mm. Yeah,
But
looking at Alan Smith there as well. I mean, I know you were mentioning earlier that he's fallen out of favour with Alf, but sometimes with the strikers, if it isn't always about the goals, is it? If they are contributing in other ways, and he does have four forwards, you know.
yeah, that's true. He's got plenty of positions
So
to play with him. I think the problem for Alan Smith was that of the 12 goals, he has like 12 games. He has 5 goals and 5 assists. I think 4 of the goals and 3 of the assists came in the first 2 or 3 games or something he played. So I think that was probably the
yeah,
the, the problem there. Churchtown still top of the form chart with that draw. Um, Games won in a row. There's no one who's standing out there. Lost in a row. Chudley and Dragons with 2 defeats in a row. Games without losing. Bolton are now 10 games unbeaten, which is pretty impressive. Pretty
yeah.
impressive.
In a league where not many long runs get put together, something like that really stands out and makes a big difference, doesn't it?
Hmm. Midlothian, 4 games without a win. They'll be hoping to turn that around at home. Dragons and Sloths also without a win. Sloths, I mean, obviously losing tonight, but they were on a kind of a streak of not losing, but there was 2 draws and now that lost tonight, so not too great for them either. Looking at the fixtures, we'll have a quick look at them. You're at home to Dragons. That's going to be an interesting one. Please note that you're not all 10th in the league. That's just because I haven't clicked continue. That's going to be that's a 6 pointer, isn't it? To use a well-worn phrase.
It absolutely is, isn't it? Yeah. I mean, I know we were talking earlier where it comes to a point where if you don't pick up certain results, then you're saying season over. And I mean, I could probably stick my neck out now there and say if I don't win that one, then that probably is, season over for me. And then it'll be a case of trying not to finish last. So yeah, going to that one with a bit of, won the last one game before tonight, played well tonight, just didn't win it. I mean, I go in there with a bit of hope, especially with Dragon Destroyers having 5 stuck past them tonight. So I think, yeah, I'll look forward to that one.
potential turning point of the season. Hooligans will face Churchtown Massive. Hooligans who will be without Ronaldinho. He'll pick up his mandatory one-game suspension, as is commonplace in the Australian League. Churchtown with a strong away form, they'll be hoping to do a little bit better than they did tonight against Midlothian and get back to winning ways and keep that pressure up at the top of the table. But Hooligans are a strong side. So yeah, it's another tricky one to call, but an interesting top of the table clash here as well.
Yeah, I think the interesting thing about both of those sides is neither of them were particularly in the game that much tonight. It was the oppositions that were doing all the making all the running. So I guess one of those sides has got to go there next week and make the running and be the dominant team, or at least get into the game. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see which one it is.
Hmm. And Ardsley could be dangerous now. They're back in goal scoring top form, but they're away to Midlothian, who do have Arek back in their ranks.
Yeah, but that's the thing, isn't it, with Ardsley? Like I said to you, with Morientes, he could go and score a hat trick and then not go and score for a couple of games, and Ardsley could go and they could go win 5-3, then they can go and lose 5-3.
Hmm.
So looking at how good Midlothian are at home, would not like to call that one at all.
Yeah, is that curtains for? I don't think. I mean, I think Fife, you mentioned Midlothian Ardsley lose out of the playoff race. I'm not sure if Ardsley is because it's an away game and they have a couple of points more than Midlothian. But if Midlothian lose this one, let's have a look at the table. Home record Midlothian. They have already played 8 out of the 15 home games, so they will have played 9 after the next one. If they lose this one, considering their away form, although slightly improved, is that kind of curtains-ish for their playoff dreams? Do you think?
Uh, I wouldn't say absolute curtains. The problem is that Ardsley is slightly ahead of them, and that'll be another team a little bit further ahead of them. It will obviously then depend on which teams above them lose.
Hmm.
Uh, but yeah, if they were to lose that game and more than that, kind of lose this dominance they have at home, if that starts to slip, then they haven't got an away form to fall back on. So that would be the bigger problem for them.
Yeah, and Somerset Sloths at home to Palmer Icos. Will will we see Palmer try his no striker formation again, or will that experiment be over and done with?
Oh, you never know, do you? What he's going to. You just never know. I mean, could he go one at the back and none up front? Um,
Two
yeah,
banks of five, maybe in the middle, five AMCs and five DMCs, and with arrows backwards and forwards, like a
yeah. I mean, you
the
look.
sandwich formation.
I can see people trying those things when things aren't going particularly well for him. But this was a side that was up to third, that was playing well, that was doing okay.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, I don't know if you're going to change stuff when it doesn't need changing. Who knows what he's going to do after a defeat.
True. Well, we'll see. We'll see what Sloss will come up with at home. Maybe they'll find some luck. They haven't had any so far this season, so really, so we'll see about that. Devils at home to Bolton Phoenix. Perhaps not what they were hoping for after such a good result. Maybe they were hoping to be able to relax a little bit in the next game and take an easy home fixture. But having a visit from the 10 games unbeaten Bolton is not going to fill them with confidence, is it?
No, but I guess he'll have as much confidence as he's had all season. I think
Hmm.
he'll go into that one probably with no fear because there has been a bit of a turnaround in form. I think if Swindon are going to do well against a side, it might be against a side that only play one up front.
Hmm.
Uh, so yeah, I don't necessarily think Fifield needs to go into that with too much fear. Although I know I've been bigging up Bolton all night. There's just something about that game that tells me Swindon could get something out of it.
Hmm. And last but not least, well, we say that almost last and not least, Valen at home to Aston Athletic. Swedes back to collecting 3 points, do you think, or is this a turnaround for Aston with their result today?
I think we'll probably see Valen maybe go back to one of his more tried and tested formations. And I think hopefully, I think he'll be open for the 3 points there.
Hmm.
Um, I think Aston have now got something to build on, and they've got loads of options there as to who to play in that formation. So yeah, another difficult one to call. But I think now that Valen's cushion is kind of running out, he might start to go back to what has been working for him a little bit more and try and put another run together.
Hmm. and we'll see who gets a rest day. Let's see if we can do this. Yeah, so there's a bit of an extra rest day here because of Hoddesdon Hornets participating in the Oceanic Cup. I'll keep you up to date of their progress in that tournament. They will probably be playing a slightly weakened side, but that probably should be enough to see off the challenges from Lothoa Papai, Laugu United, and Kiwi. So they've got those games coming up. So that could obviously inflict a couple of injuries, but they will have a couple of extra days off, I think, compared to the rest of you guys. So a good one for Chudley. They get an extra rest there because they're playing Hornets. But I'll try and do it. I think the last game is on. There's one on the 12th and one on the 16th. It's going to be a little bit chaotic with regards to this. We'll play it as well as we can. I haven't done this before, and I'm not sure if I'll have time to do it as a playthrough in one of the test saves, but I'll see how it works out, and if Chudley and Hoddesdon can't be played at the same time, then I might have to let the screen go black for a couple of minutes, play those games, and get things sorted and get everything set up again. But then how we deal with injuries and things like that, we'll kind of cross that bridge when we come to it. So that's what's going to happen with that game for those who noticed that there was a game missing off the fixture list. Um, that's pretty much it for this evening then. I mean, we overran spectacularly, obviously, but I think everyone had a lot to say, or certainly we had a lot to say after so long of not saying anything.
We've all missed it, haven't we? So good.
Yeah, it certainly looks like it. A special show for them midweek. I'm not sure if I feel, but either way, thanks very much everyone for tuning in. I think we'll call it a night here, and I'll get back to you with the packs as soon as possible for all the managers. Thanks everyone for watching. Good night, Ian, and thanks for your contribution. Very welcome as
Great.
always.
Thanks, you. Enjoyed it. Cheers, everyone. Good night.
Good night, everyone. Good night.